It's entitled Rabbi.
Oh, boy.
In the podcast, you have said that your mother would like you to be a rabbi. You are a rabbi. Rabbi means teacher. That is what you were doing on Valuetainment Economics.
And that is why his mother was so disappointed with him last week when we spoke.
Are we live right now?
And he said he didn't want to become a rabbi. Anyways, welcome to tonight's podcast. We have to start off with Adam telling us the story about him being a rabbi. Today we have a full house. We have Danielle DiMartino booth here with us, which obviously, Valuetainers, you guys always request her. She's got her own show down the middle with Danielle DiMartino.
I'm in the purple.
We got Adam Sosnick with us. We got Tom Zenner with us. And today, for the first time with us, Ricky Aguilar, who I think we can call you a capitalist. How would
capitalist.
You're a capitalist.
I'm a conservative capitalist, Hispanic, proud Hispanic, Latino, conservative capitalist.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yes.
So you know kind of where he leans. It's going to be a lot of fun today. We have a lot of things to talk about. And here's how it's going to work out. We'll go for the first hour, kind of going through some of the issues. 8 o'clock, we'll watch the debate together live. We'll go till 9:30. We'll comment on it. And then 9:30 to 10:30, we'll debrief with what thoughts everybody has. So while you're watching this, put the thumbs up, share the debate. Let's get a bunch of folks here together and let us know what's on your mind with tonight's debate. But I think the first thing for us to talk about before we get right into it is who's campaigning, who's raising money, who has momentum, what's really going on. Kai, can you pull up what Trump's done lately? Maybe show the picture of Trump's campaign where he's been the last week. Show the picture of where he's been in Carolina. I send it to you. Sam has it. Sam, did you give that one to him or not yet? How was that one picture I sent you to where he's been? I sent you guys, I said airdrop it. If you don't have that, go to what Jake Tapper said about Biden recently on that 1 minute. Because I think the big concern with Democrats is Biden hasn't been out there debating or campaigning specifically at all the last week. Rewind it back and play that.
President's having, but Joe Biden didn't have any events yesterday. I'm not saying he should be having unsafe events, but why is he taking a day off with less than 3 weeks to go before the election?
Jake, Joe Biden has campaigned tirelessly, but he has campaigned safely. And as you saw this past week during the national town halls that both of them held, it is a sharp contrast between President Trump, who's frenzied, who continues to lie just incessantly, morning, noon, and night, and former Vice President Biden, who is laying out a clear...
He wanted, he's like, he's already
he's showing that it's making a difference, particularly with suburban
women. So
women.
if you want to pause this, Kai, if you have the other one, show it to us. So for 1 week, no one's seen him. And then this is what Trump's been doing campaigning. If you got the pic, do you know the pic I gave you with Sam? There you go. So that's him the last week, okay?
Oh, wow.
Ohio, Nevada, Florida, Carolina. I think today he had a sit down with 60 Minutes. Right afterwards, they went out there campaigning. And so it's going to be an interesting strategy. What do you think about this whole strategy right now? Because it seems like Biden's team is kind of saying the same thing over and over again. He's preparing for the debate. 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 While Trump is out there campaigning. Who do you think this is benefiting right now going into tonight's debate?
Well, I mean, obviously you're getting a lot more energy out of the Trump camp, but I think from the Democrats' perspective, at this point, it's do no harm. It's like the Hippocratic Oath. Don't mess up. And, you know, I think they're just holding their breath and hoping that the president says something, sticks his foot in his mouth somehow.
Well, take a look. I mean, those are the people that just got in, okay? That doesn't count the people that are probably trying to get in.
Yeah.
That's a frenzy, okay? That's a movement right there. What about the fact that Biden is not campaigning because he's scared? Because he doesn't want to face these questions. That is the only reason he is not campaigning right now. You won't get that from CNN because they're not allowed to say Hunter Biden on the air. Either is ABC. They don't mention the word one time, Hunter Biden. They do not say it. In my opinion, he's not campaigning because he doesn't want to face these questions. What is he going to do? Lie? I mean, this is turning into something pretty big and pretty important here in the final week.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, I mean, he's going to face these questions
tonight.
That's the whole point of this.
Is he?
Tom, we're about to find out in an hour, are we not? I mean, that's what's going to happen.
In order to do that, the moderator has to ask the questions.
Well, I think we can all agree. I'm not saying she will, but she should ask the tough questions to both candidates. Yeah?
Well, she should.
Well, that's her job.
It's a big difference.
And if
wait.
And if she doesn't, Trump will.
National security is a subject, and this would be a matter of national security, would it not? Allegations involving the Chinese Communist Party would definitely be some aspect of national security. So, especially given what's come out in the media today, because there has been this steady drumbeat from journalists saying if it can't be corroborated, we can't report on it. Well, if there is corroboration in the form of something on a hard drive, emails from more than one entity, then all of a sudden it's something that the moderator should be bringing up.
Ricky, what do you think?
Well, when it comes down to him not campaigning, first of all, my grandmother had a saying. I'm going to tell you in Spanish, I'm going to translate it. She said, te defiendes mejor callado, right? Which meaning that you defend yourself more just not saying anything, right? So I actually, we were talking about it, I don't want to jump ahead of the schedule, but we're talking about, them turning off the microphones. I think it's a double, a lot of people don't like it, it's a double-edged sword for me. I think so. I think it's a great idea, because what is Biden going to say for 90 seconds or 2 minutes? He's incoherent. So you give him a chance to put his foot in his mouth, he's going to do it, and I can't wait for him to do it during this debate if they choose to moderate the time.
Ricky, you're from where? Where's your family from?
Michoacán, Naranjo de Chila, Michoacán, Mexico.
So you consider yourself a conservative capitalist?
My dad was an entrepreneur. I've never heard my dad call anybody boss, nor any of his brothers and sisters. My dad's an entrepreneur, and we are conservative we love our country, we love God, we love our families, and we like our rights protected. I mean, I think every Hispanic doesn't realize they're conservative, or every Latino at least, or everybody in general. But I think mostly for us, from where we come from, it's family, God, make your money, take care. I mean, it's the very basics. So as a Hispanic, I'm more, by the way, we're pro life, right? Because as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know that. Some people might not agree. Some people might agree. I know some parts of the Catholic religion, depending on where you live, do not even allow people to use condoms, which makes sense why our grandparents had so many kids. So we are about life. And I'm looking at a lot of, modern Hispanics or progressive Hispanics that don't want God involved, right, in the system, don't have a big problem whenever you're talking about pro-life or pro-choice. And they're getting away from the values and principles that our grandparents, and our parents taught us. So the ones that want to treat that, I'm a Latino, I'm Hispanic, raza. If you're really that way, then you are naturally conservative. That's just the way I look at it.
You remember when George W. ran for his second term as Texas governor?
Yes.
It was a Hispanic landslide here in Texas. Landslide by the Hispanic community.
Right.
So, I mean, you are absolutely correct. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, but you're absolutely correct that it is all about God and family.
It is.
It's a great
100%.
point.
Why do you think? I mean, you get into it with your community a lot.
All the time.
I mean, you get into it all the time.
All the time.
You've converted a lot of people to get into the
Yes.
way of thinking of who they really are. But
Yes.
why do you think a lot of Hispanics, it's the fastest growing community in America, population-wise, voting-wise? I mean, it's the future the way it's going right now.
Demographics?
Demographics.
Okay,
why
so
do you think they vote? 64% vote Democrat.
So I have to go a little deeper. Okay, so when my dad was 15 years old living in Mexico, the Bible was on Spanish. I mean, we don't speak Spanish, we speak Castellano.
Castellano.
Right? Castellano, we speak Castellano. The Bible in Mexico was Latin. Up until my dad was 15 years old. My dad he was born in 1957. So figure up into the late 60s, early 70s, the Bible was not in Spanish, it was in Latin. Okay. But the Catholic religion, or just religion in general, in Mexico, has been there since after they killed the Aztecs off and the Mayans off. So the reality is this. My dad says, I don't even know why I follow a certain religion. It's just because they told me, hey, this is a Bible, kissed it and said, this is the word of God. So what does it teach us about Hispanics? We're very trusting, right? So we might not even be able to read it, but if you say it enough times, by the way, Hitler said it, say the lie, repeat the lie, they'll believe the lie, right? I'm not talking about the religion. I'm just saying, as a Hispanic community in Mexico, we're very trusting when you say we want to help you. We're very trusting. So whenever you jump on the news, like Telemundo, Univision, and you listen to Jorge Ramos, which is supposed to be for us, and you say, this is Orange Man bad, you're like, yes. You don't do your homework, you don't do your research, you don't dig deeper. Just because another man with your same skin color from your same country that is also an immigrant says so, you believe him. That's the problem with the Hispanic community. Nobody goes deeper. Everybody just says, oh, Mexican must have my interest in my best interest at heart. I'm gonna believe him. So when you start looking at, we're reading through all the laws and everything, for example, I mean, here we have Hispanics voting for the man that was a vice president, while 4 million people got deported, the most in history. On top of that, the cages were built when he was a vice president. So you're talking about La Raza, if you're Trump, you're bad, you're a traitor, but you were voting for the man that was vice president for 8 years. As our people got deported and built the cages, you're hypocritical. But you don't know any better because Jorge Ramos, Telemundo, and Univision told you not to believe that.
Well, I mean, so I will speak in defense of many people from Mexico who were not too terribly impressed with the idea of a wall.
100%. 100%.
So I'm just saying.
I said it yesterday. I posted it on Facebook. A lot of people, the wall is racist. Every single president has added to the wall, right? Every president. Barack Obama said that he was going to go against the anchor baby thing. He's the one that brought it up. So, as a wall, I put it on Facebook yesterday. So, okay, if you don't believe in the wall, you don't believe in ICE, which is basically the security, the cops of the border. It's very simple. Put it on social media what your address is, open up your windows, open up your doors, and don't call the cops when strangers come into your house. Because they might be hardworking Americans.
That sounds like New York City these days.
And it makes sense why they've converted so many people. But if you don't like a wall, and look, do the trial at your house first before you want us to open up our country. Why don't you open up your house first? Go open up your doors, your windows, leave them open all day, all night. Let anybody come in. Go to your refrigerator, take your food, do whatever, sleep in whatever room they want, and just not know who they are. Don't ask them for ID. Don't ask them for blood. Don't ask, because who knows? I mean, they might just be good, hardworking Americans.
So, Ricky, do they take the newscaster serious? Ramos still has that much power as an anchor?
100%. A news anchor, to a certain extent, is equivalent to a priest, because you just think they're Hispanic. I watch. You got to think this from the morning to the end. They watch the morning news, telenovelas, which are soap operas.
Telenovela.
People live for telenovelas in the Hispanic community. I grew up around one of my crushes, her name is Ruby. Some of my Hispanic followers can remember, it was a soap opera called Ruby. And so they watch these people from morning to night. So they almost allow them into their home.
That was my dream job, to be on a soap opera.
Oh my God.
You look like a soap opera guy. I mean, if you look at that, he looks like a soap opera guy.
And that's your job, right?
What? I got a question for you. Una pregunta for mi amigo Ricardo.
Yes.
So you said you think the wall is racist.
No. I said Hispanics think the wall is racist. Some Hispanics think the wall is racist.
We're trying to divert from Hunter Biden by talking about the wall right now.
Are we talking about Hunter Biden
Wait,
right
we're
now?
talking about the wall.
We're literally talking about Hispanics.
Every sovereign country has a wall, and so they should.
Okay, cool. I'm with you. I've said multiple times that people like you, that look like you, tatted up, gangsters, I might say, need to actually join the Republican Party, which you are, and run for office.
Right.
You could talk about it all you want, unless you run for office and someone sees, damn, that dude Ricky's my guy. It's all just mouth talk right now.
Just
take out
So
Gavin
when someone like you runs for office, that's when people are going to wake up. Okay, that's number one. Number two.
But is this the truth though? Because Major is running for office right now, and you don't see a whole lot in California. He's running against Newsom. He's a black Republican.
That's what I'm not talking about. I'm talking about Latinos. We're talking about Latinos here.
But the black community is just as tight as our community. So if that was the case, then why isn't Major making any noise in California?
Well, let's talk about numbers now.
Okay.
Pat said 65% of Latinos vote for the Democrats. That's 35% Republican. 90% of African Americans vote Democrat.
Right.
Okay. What is Trump doing?
I see what you're saying.
What is Trump doing to bring more Latinos into the Republican Party? What is Trump doing to bring more African Americans into the community? Because in my opinion, he's not helping.
No, I agree with you, Adam. Here's the thing. You got to remember, Hispanics are very emotional people.
You know who else is emotional?
Yes.
Everybody.
Everybody. No.
Okay, but Latinos for sure.
They were extra emotional. Like, we cry on the soap operas. Does it make sense? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
to all my Latino friends out there.
We cry during the soap opera. Like, when
it's just a soap opera.
It's a soap opera. No, but we take it so serious.
Yeah.
The problem is in the Hispanic community, we take things that we shouldn't take as serious, very serious, and things that we should take serious, not as serious. So I'm sitting here. I was having a conversation with an individual yesterday on Facebook as well through Messenger. If I can show you all the bills and the laws and everything that Trump has done to help the Hispanic community, would that change your mind? No. Why? Because F Trump.
They're not trying to hear the facts.
No, they don't want to hear the facts.
They're emotional creatures.
It's emotional. No.
Of course.
They're extra emotional creatures.
Extra. You say most people are emotional, but Latinos are extra emotional.
By the way, my wife is right here. That's why I love being married to a Mexican woman, because they're very passionate. Yeah. But that passion comes at a cost.
Yeah, she'll cut you if you mess up.
That passion is going to come at a cost. So sometimes Erica just
Erica, put away the knife.
Sometimes she just thinks about.
You're not related to Lorena Bobbitt. No. Just checking.
So
just checking.
Erica just may think of something that I might like. Did you think about? I was guilty. I started. So again. She woke
up in the middle of the night because she had a bad dream and just slapped you.
Just slapped the crap out of me.
You're like, I'm sleeping again, obviously.
I'm like, did you hit me for something I might do? But here's the problem. Let's go back to the point. The point is this, and when you talk about the Hispanic community, and you think about this, like I said, Trump is not appealing to minorities because his language. So
what's the first thing he ever said? The first thing he ever said, Ricky, what was it?
Was build a wall. He wanted to build a wall.
Not to build a wall, that these people are coming across the border, they're rapists, they're drug dealers.
Adam, those are sound bites. Those are sound bites.
That was his first speech. That was his inauguration to campaign speech.
MS-13 gang rape women in. And some of their initiations are to gang rape or to murder. Mm-hmm. So if I grab a bunch of sound bites and say, oh, you grab, he said that we're racist, murderers, drug dealers, and he says, I'm assuming some people are good. Well, I'll put it to you this way. If I'm at your door with 15 different people, I said, Adam, let me in, but you don't know any of them. Are you going to assume they're all good, or you're going to say, I don't know any of you guys? I can't assume that you're good. I have to assume that you're going to harm my family inside my house.
All right.
I have to assume.
Let's step back for a minute. Mm-hmm. 2 times now in public, Trump has been given the opportunity to denounce white supremacists.
29 times he's done it.
But 2 big stages. Tonight's his third opportunity to say,
yes,
people who are against people of color are not with me. Yes. This is his third opportunity on a big stage to go there.
Yes.
Do you think he's going to go there?
But he just did it on the town hall. And he said, how many times do I have to do it? But at what point will it be enough for him to do it?
Can I answer that?
Is there like an official time he can do it?
Like frustrated by answering it. Like, Tom, are you a racist? You.
I don't play those games. I don't.
But you're not going to answer? What do you mean?
But that's...
You want to answer that?
To Adam's point, he needs to answer it very quickly and decisively and move on.
Who makes up those rules?
If you ask me
maybe
the
a
same
no
question.
is good enough for some people.
Ask me that question.
But you
am I a racist? Ask me the question.
You keep pulling this.
There's a part of it, but there's a part of it that the question makes the audience assume that at one point he was. So the question itself has a lot of power behind it. So even when somebody says, do you still hit your wife? I've never hit my wife before. If I ask you 3 times in 3 separate interviews, the audience is going to be like, maybe he does hit his wife, nobody knows about it. The questions have a lot of power behind them. So, you sit there and you watch questions being asked on both sides, it's not the same thing. Anyways, what this was good for, if you didn't know Ricky, now you know Ricky. This is who Ricky is. You know his position. Since we have some stuff we got to do before we get into the debate, can you pull up how much money Trump has raised versus Biden? Because Biden's been on fire lately, raising money. Pull up the data. Here's what it's looking like. So Biden's raised $1.35 billion so far. Trump's raised $1.49 billion. So even though it looks good that Trump's raised more, if you look in the light blue and the light pink, in September alone, Biden's raised $358, Trump $153. Nearly 2.5 times more. If you go a little lower, to see what these numbers are looking like, where it's coming from. That's September, we kind of looked at number. Go lower, there's one of the things I wanted to show on how the numbers look. Trump victory, okay, those are good. Keep going lower, is that it? Kai, is there anything lower or no? Okay, that's what I want to look at. Okay, so you see the spike right, yeah, you see the hockey stick. So what does that hockey stick represent? Is it representing the last minute panic? Is it representing, Bloomberg just came in and cut a big check and that helps the number tremendously? Is it what is that hockey stick representing? Is it we better figure this thing out because if this guy gets in and stays another 4 years, we're all screwed? What does that mean?
It's naivete because you just don't ramp up the TV commercials and think it's going to sway anything. Who watches TV anymore? Who watches these commercials? People that have already made up their mind. Old people. You know anybody that really watches the news or watches network television from 8 till 10? I don't. Nobody else does. Here's the other thing about Trump. You think he's lacking in TV coverage? He goes to these swing states, draws 25,000 people at a rally and owns the news cycle. People can see through these ads. There's no one stupid enough that would listen to a TV commercial right now and think, man, a light bulb just went off. I like this Biden guy.
The light bulb went off after the debate.
You know what, that money is Bloomberg. A big part of that, that was a huge deal.
200 million of it.
But do you think that's
individual donors?
Do you think the money is an issue right now? Do you think if either side needed money right now, they would have it in a second? It's how they prioritize it. I don't think Trump is prioritizing TV ads right now. And the other thing is, there is a chance that one of these sides know more than we do. This polling data might be inaccurate. He might not need as many TV commercials as the general populace thinks that he does.
Well, where it will be effective, nationally, I think maybe you're right. Locally, in swing states, in certain cities in Wisconsin, in Detroit, in certain cities in North Carolina, in certain cities in Florida,
Yeah,
in certain cities in Arizona.
I'm not turning my television on in Florida right now. I'm not turning my TV on.
I'm worried about
that's where they're putting
is
the money.
on
Of course, it
Congress
matters in
and
swing
Senate
states.
races, because those are the ones that are very, very close, very contentious, and that's going to make almost as much of a difference as who's president. And that's where a lot of money in, and that's where the ads are
Right, I
going
mean,
right now too.
you're not going to get legislation done if you can't flip one of the houses. It's just not happening. You'll have more gridlock.
I have to say, you know what really worried me, and a lot of people don't. I forgot who was saying it. I think it was on, maybe it was CNN, because I watch CNN because if I want to be entertained and hear a bunch of lies, I watch CNN. So, but anyway, the point is this. Somebody said, I can't remember if it was Cuomo or if it was Lemon, he said, if Biden becomes president, he needs to pack the court. That's scary. It hasn't happened in 150 years. You know what I'm saying? When you're already insinuating that as a president, this is what you should do, that's a very scary language. And this, it goes back to a little bit of what Pat was saying. These are the type of things that our Hispanic community doesn't hear. They don't know deep enough issues. They don't know that packing the court is a horrible thing to do, and nor should you do it. But when you have anchors of people that are naive, listening to them, and you say pack, that's a scary thing. I mean, anybody voting for Biden, you should do your homework and realize that, because should Trump pack the House? I mean, what should you do? Or pack the court? What should you do? He's not doing it now.
I don't think it's a naivete on the Latino community. I don't think most people ever even heard of
I'm not
packing
saying
the
it,
court
but
up until like a month ago.
No kidding. Who even thought that was
I've been
possible?
40 years on this planet. I never heard
but
packing
the-
the
but
court.
the
I know packing the club when the club gets too full, but this is a little
But the
aggressive with the packing the court.
insinuation of it, it's a scary thought that the anchors that are influencing everyday Americans are saying this.
Well, Joe Biden did say that he will make an announcement on packing the court before
That's
before
true,
election.
he has.
So let's see if he does
But the good news is, for people who don't do their own fact checking, the independent organizations that follow Americans reading the Constitution, the American readership of the U.S. Constitution has gone through the roof.
Right.
And there's no social media and influence.
that's a beautiful thing, by the way.
I mean, it is so awesome. It's like what people didn't do in high school, they're going back and doing, and we're learning about our founding fathers and our roots. I mean, there's some pretty awesome stuff happening because Americans are curious, because all they hear are sound bites. They don't get any substance. They're like, okay, I'm going to go find out for myself.
The
And good for
debates are
them.
not helping. They're not getting any substance in the debates because some people are not answering the questions, other people are interrupting people. The mediators
we'll see,
are kind
though.
of,
I mean,
yeah, we're gonna find out
two
today.
minutes each,
Well, how do you feel about the microphone muting after 2 minutes?
muting before 2 minutes
I mean,
is over.
muting before 2
No,
minutes.
I don't mind that. Not when you've got 13 minutes to have a food fight after per question. 13 minutes is plenty of time for them to go after each other.
So you like the muting?
Just for the first 2 minutes. I mean, I'm sorry, whether it's Biden or Trump, if you can't handle
agree.
120
I agree.
seconds, you
I'm
do
with you
not
on
need
that
to
one.
be.
I'm with you
You
on
do
that
not
one.
need to
Trump
be
is gonna
the
able
leader
to-
of the free
to
world.
refrain himself.
No, I think he is. I think he's going to force Biden to talk more tonight.
Yeah, and that's a great
I think that's
idea.
how he's going to hurt himself.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
if Trump can stick with his game plan tonight, which is a big what if.
That's a huge what
right.
if.
But I think that's part of their strategy is let Biden kind of,
By the way, here's
his
what's
own
crazy.
problem.
Today, a lot of things have happened today, okay?
Yeah.
A lot.
One, Amy Coney Barrett,
Barrett, yeah.
they voted for her. 12 Democrats didn't show up, so
Right.
12-10 if you want to put it, there were 12-0 for them not showing up. Two, George Floyd, you heard about
Yes.
Chauvin, the whole thing.
They didn't think that the third-degree murder could stick.
Yeah, so that's the second thing that happened today, which again, more frustration thing. Third, the Sacha Cohen Borat 2 clip came out with Rudy Giuliani. In the interview, he got spooked, and which is hilarious. I know you've been following the story. I mean, that in
That
itself is
wasn't
crazy.
what I was thinking when it came to October surprises.
Yeah,
that was nowhere on my radar screen. I'm like,
Could
okay.
Borat's timing have been any better?
He's a
His
genius, by
movie,
the way.
Genius.
He is a
on the
genius.
23rd.
If Time Magazine, you know how they do the top 100? If he's not in the top 100, I mean, this guy's a brilliant
And the great
mind.
thing about him, you don't hear from him
Yeah.
in between.
He doesn't like to be
He's
interviewed.
under the
Yeah.
radar. He doesn't
He's-
do anything.
So that's that part. And then on top of that, we had a couple other stories. You had
Tony,
60
Tony,
Minutes.
Tony.
We had 60 Minutes, which is the 60 Minutes, the interview that
Leslie Stahl
Trump did
with
With Leslie Stahl,
with
yeah.
Leslie Stahl. And then they did it with Biden, I think even Pence and Trump. And she was upset at Pence. and she says,
she's never interviewed Biden. There was confusion there on the president's part. She has personally never interviewed Biden. And
60 Minutes has.
60 Minutes has interviewed
But not
Biden, but
her.
not Leslie.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
after listening to 30 Minutes, that was like two people attacking each other. So
Yes.
he was attacking her as a
I don't
person.
like her
Yes.
on the air anyway. She's
So-
always uncomfortable.
Well, but
Did you see the first time she interviewed him or no?
Probably.
When he became a president,
Yeah,
like
I'm
4
sure I
years
did,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. So and then that whole part, but the biggest factor about this is it's supposed to be launched this Sunday. So
It will be because Pence sat for the whole interview.
Yeah, he did.
So they have plenty to put on the air.
You watched the whole thing.
I watched
What'd
the
you
whole
think
thing.
about it? Because before anything,
I can't say it like
Trump
I can't
released
say
it.
what it looked like.
This
It
is the
looked
biggest
like a
thing people
something
need to know.
show.
Like you imagine you're an actor, you're in a movie, your girl is recording a scene, and before the movie comes out, you publicize the scene to everybody.
Right.
So 60 Minutes is doing the interview, somebody sitting there recording him. Before 60 Minutes plays it on Sunday, he plays it so everybody tonight cannot say that he walked out.
Yeah.
Goes live with it. What was your takeaway when you watched it?
So, I mean, again, it wasn't, I didn't take away anything of substance from
Yeah.
it. And that is an increasing source of frustration, I think. I don't care who you're talking about, Democrats or Republicans. You're like, I want to learn what they think about that's substantive instead of just listening to two people fight.
Yeah.
If I want to listen to two people fight, I wouldn't put my...
You're Italian. I mean,
well,
it's
yeah. I
every
mean, I could
day
just
for
go
you
find a
guys, yeah.
relative. So, but I don't. I mean, I'd rather hear policy, and I think that's what Americans are ready for. She obviously, they both got hot under the collar.
Do you think it's a good idea
She
that
was
he played
irritated
it,
and
though?
he was irritated. Sorry?
Do you think it was smart on his end to
well,
put it on
now
Facebook?
I have my second master's is in journalism, so I think he crossed a very dark line.
Oh my God, I disagree.
In doing that.
Well, what did he do wrong? I mean, you come to his house, you roll cameras. He didn't break into CBS and steal videotape
They
from
didn't, but
Walter Cronkite.
he broke with protocol, and that was just. They're not going to not air what happened between the two of them. It's just you're going to get to see both of their faces.
But you know what? CBS is doing
it's
backflips
genius
right
what he
now.
did.
Do you understand the numbers on Sunday night? Because people,
Sunday night's going to be.
People are going to want to know what their version of what happened is.
Right, but we're talking about right and wrong. And what he did was not right.
Yeah, but I mean, is it fair to say that they've also done the same thing to him with the whole collusion with Russia?
My point is, had anything of substance come out of the 37 minutes? But for me, it was it was just a stunt.
But
that was all it was.
You're
It was
lying and saying that he walked out of the interview and he wanted to set the record straight. I don't think there's anything wrong
He
with that.
didn't stay for the entire interview.
Well,
They said, "Sir, you've got 5 minutes left on air," and he said, "No." And I mean, he didn't rip off his microphone and storm out, but he
Actually,
did.
Can you pull it up?
But he did get up and leave.
Go to Trump's Facebook. It's not really, if you go to Trump's Facebook page, I hope you don't need to log on.
But he could have just as easily played that one little segment that showed I didn't storm off.
Yeah. You know what? I think the biggest motivation for the people, the journalists doing the interviews is they want to impress their peers. They're doing these interviews for the kudos that they get from their colleagues and their bosses. And they go in there with, she could have got some substantial information and really answer some questions he never had. But they're so busy being in attack mode and trying to impress their peers.
Keep going.
No, you're right.
It's about to come. It's the
100%.
next one, I think. Oh, they took it down? No, that's it. Okay.
no, that's it.
So
You
make it
gotta
bigger.
just
Make
zap.
it bigger. Okay.
Isn't this amazing they haven't yanked it
go
yet?
to 30. Go to 36 minutes. Here's how it ends. Raise the volume. Okay, play it. 4.7 million views in 6 hours.
That's a very frustrating man.
That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted. He wanted the
You know,
views.
I didn't want to have this kind of thing.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Well, then you brought up a lot of subjects that
Well, I said
were
I'm gonna ask
inappropriately
you
brought
tough
up.
questions.
They were inappropriately
But-
brought up right from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions. Well,
It
when you
is.
set up the interview, your first statement
You're
was,
president. Don't you
excuse
think
me,
you
no,
should
no,
be
no.
accountable to the
Listen,
American
your
people?
first statement to me, this is going to be tough questions. Well, I don't mind that. But when you set up the interview, you didn't say that. You said, oh, let's have a lovely interview. And here's what I do say.
So why?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with
I
Joe
never
Biden.
did a Joe
It was a
Biden
joke.
interview.
The interview, 60 Minutes. I see Joe Biden giving softball after softball. I've seen all of his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard.
Okay, but forget him for a minute.
No, but you
You're
start with
president.
me.
You're president. and-
Excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
Yeah.
I did.
That's no way to talk. No way to talk.
Leslie, one second. This is the first warning. I think we have 5 minutes until we have the vice president step in. Is that about right?
Well, I think we have enough. Really, we have enough of
So I think
it.
we're ready for the vice president now.
I think we have enough of an interview.
See, one of his aides comes on
that's
and
enough.
rescues him.
Let's go.
Okay, he just gave her 40 minutes.
But Danielle, if there's anybody, here's the thing.
Seconds, okay?
I get how frustrating he could be, but if there's anybody in politics that is definitely not one that avoids being interviewed and doesn't go into heat, when sitting down with this guy. Everybody else, Obama did it once with, what do you call it? He sat down once with O'Reilly. Do you remember that one interview? And then you never saw it again. He'll go on CNN, Fox, MSN. He'll go anywhere to do it. So I don't think it's the thing about him wanting to step away. She flipped her request that she had at the beginning. My only thing is I'm sitting there thinking, okay, why did he share it? So is he sharing it because he doesn't want anything to be asked tonight that's going to hurt him? Is he trying to... What's his motive of sharing this? That's what I'm trying to find out.
I think he's sharing it to give a glimpse of what the motivation is with the media, and just how they try to spin something, and how
I get that, but why today? Like, why did he do it today? What was in here he was worried about the debate
did it
tonight?
not get people stop talking about Rudy Giuliani? Stop that in a second.
The one thing that was throughout was there's no corroboration. It cannot be verified. It was said over, because the Hunter Biden business came up probably 4 or 5 times in the 35 minutes they spoke, and she kept repeating after herself, it can't be verified. We cannot report on it if it cannot be corroborated. What if Trump knew this was coming out? What if Trump knew that corroboration itself was coming out today? What better timing could there be?
On which side? On
his.
Hunter Biden?
They could validate these emails, right? And prove them that the CEO of a company maybe...
The gentleman who came out and said, I have the physical emails in my possession that the Post published.
So why don't we go into that?
That is straightforward corroboration.
And that's what you said before, right? When we weren't even recording. So check this out. I said there's been 5 big stories today, right? We talked about Amy Coney Barrett,
this guy,
George Floyd, Rudy Giuliani, the 60 Minutes, and this guy. Here's what he says before he even watched this.
And by the way, generation after generation in the Navy, this guy.
This guy was friends. If you haven't seen this, by the way, he may actually be at the debate tonight. Trump is trying to bring him to the debate tonight, similar to our last time. He brought Bill Clinton's
mistresses.
Accusers, not mistresses, accusers.
Oh, it was?
And he's trying to do the same thing on
accusing mistresses.
Yes, alleged.
To throw Hillary off.
And Tony comes out today. Tony was a friend of Hunter Biden, and he drops the bomb in the first 2 minutes. Press play on this one.
Zelensky is talking to the media right now. Armed forces. Since leaving the Navy, I've been involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden, in dealings with the Chinese. I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that span the years 2015 through 2018.
That is unbelievable.
These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I were to publish this information, it would bury all of us.
He just showed phones? Why is that bad?
If everything of the text that's in there, it's over.
The few contributions I've made have been to Democrats.
What do you mean, what's over?
I'm asking, like, what do you think?
Okay, let him finish. You're actually asking that question. I want to hear
what's in the phones. He just
What
showed
he
me 3
just
phones.
said,
What he says it in the phones.
The email's in dispute in the New York Post. He
I don't
says that he has a
think
copy
The
of it.
question is, why didn't you do this weeks ago, months ago?
He has to
Politics, man.
He has to
He has to do
back
this
it
the
up.
day, the 2 weeks
That's
ago.
because they're holding on to something. Go back, because we have to hear what this guy's saying. So they're holding on to. So go back to hear the key words. Go back. I think it's like at 40 seconds. Let him play again because I think Adam missed it. Folks, forgive us. Adam may be very good with finances. When it comes on to selective hearing, he doesn't hear the things that he doesn't want to hear.
He showed me 3 phones, like a drug dealer.
Play it one more time. Go ahead. There's a lot of drug dealers in my
I've also heard that Vice
dealer.
President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence.
Pause. Okay. Go back one more time for 9 seconds. Adam, listen very carefully to what he says. It's proper English.
Everything he's saying
Play
is
one
in
more
the
time.
chats. I got it.
Play it again.
Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. and the American people can judge for themselves.
So I guess he's guilty.
And Ron-
Biden has his job right
why he
away.
wasn't campaigning?
Because he used the corroboration word. He said corroborated. And he's showing you where the evidence lives.
Myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was
just listen.
also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. I've never been political. The few contributions I've made have been to Democrats. But what I am is a patriot and a veteran. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there. In late 2015, I was approached by James Gilliar, whom I had known for many years, about joining him in a deal which he said would involve the Chinese state-owned enterprise CEFC China Energy and what he called one of the most prominent families in the United States. I was informed first by Gilliar and then by Hunter Biden and by Rob Walker, who was working with the Bidens, that the Bidens wanted to form a new entity with CEFC, which was to invest in infrastructure, real estate, and technology in the U.S. and around the world, and the entity would initially be capitalized with $10 million and then grow to billions of dollars of investment capital. After months of discussion, I agreed to Gilliar and Hunter Biden's request to become CEO of the entity to be called Sinohawk. Sino representing the Chinese side, Hawk representing Hunter Biden's brother Beau's favorite animal. And between February and May 2017, we exchanged numerous emails, documents, and WhatsApp messages concerning Sinohawk and its potential business. On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear at the Milken Conference, I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gilliar and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
How bad is this?
I also had a disagreement with Hunter about the funds CFC was contributing to Sinohawk.
It's like a movie. You couldn't
Hunter
make
wanted
this
$5
up.
million of those funds to go to himself and his family. So he wanted the funds wired directly to an entity affiliated with him. I objected because I was contrary
We did
to our
speed
written
it up
agreements
if you're watching this.
concerning
We have it at
Sinohawk.
1.5.
Instead,
Maybe go
referring
to
the chairman
1.25.
Father, that CFC was really investing in the Biden family, that he held the Trump card, and that he was the one putting his family legacy on the line. He also said to me on May 17th, 2017, that CFC wanted to be my partner, to be partner with the Bidens. During these negotiations, I repeated to Hunter and others that Sinohawk could not be Hunter's personal piggy bank, and I demanded that proper corporate governance procedures be implemented for capital distributions. Hunter became very upset with me. CFC through July 2017 was assuring me the funds would be transferred to Sinohawk, but they were never sent to our company. Instead, I found out from Senator Johnson's September report that the $5 million was sent in August 2017 to entities affiliated with Hunter. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said. So I will not be taking any questions at this time.
Did you hear the end of it where
Yes.
he said that they moved the money to Hunter? They kicked him out of the deal. So he's
Yes.
pissed.
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
What do
That
you
is
think about
truly
this, Adam? Adam, tell us. What do you think about this?
I mean, I think Joe Biden should just drop out of the race right now.
Honestly,
Come on, you just drop out.
What do you? I know you're emotionally pissed off, but what do you think about this?
Okay, some dude shows up the day before election. I've never heard of this guy, and all of
Okay.
a sudden I'm supposed to be like defending this or that, the other. How pissed would you be if you got screwed over in a deal? Like, what's his reasonings?
Not
But
bad
let me
enough to go on national
ask
TV.
it to you
You've
in a
asked
different
him
way.
multiple times.
Let me
Why
ask
Trump?
it a
Okay,
different way. Let me
go
ask it a
ahead.
different way. Here's a
Yeah.
different question for you. So when the dossier came out, everybody's famous question was what? What if this is true? What should they do to Trump, right? What if this is true?
Yeah, there's going to be legal ramifications.
What if this is true?
There's going to be legal ramifications.
Which means
right?
what? What
Who
if?
freaking knows? I just heard of Joe Bubba Liskey for like this a minute and a half we
Yeah.
watched him. No clue. They've been talking about Hunter Biden for years now, and they've nothing stuck. Biden's winning in the polls still, despite Hunter Biden's salacious activity. Is this going to be enough to put him over the top? We'll see. they should bring this up in
I'm
the debate tonight.
I'm not asking if it is anything to put him over the top. Does it do anything for you as a voter?
What? Some dude like speaking for a minute and a half?
It doesn't do anything for you.
This does zero for me.
Really? Okay.
If they actually prove...
But here's the thing,
I'm supposed to trust this guy.
No, it's not about trusting.
He's the CEO of a company.
He's saying...
then I should trust him then.
No,
He's the CEO of a
not.
company.
What's his motivation for lying?
If everything can...
What do you mean? What's his motivation for not lying?
If everything can be proven, that these talks have been had, and that is the agreement, where are you at position-wise?
Some dude making a speech does nothing for me. If actually legal ramifications happen, then yeah.
How many times did you bring up Russia with Trump?
Did I?
Yeah.
We can go on the entire podcast, run it back every single time, zero.
Yeah, but Russia was done when you started the podcast.
Of course, it was because it was done. But prior to that, what did you think when you saw the Russia thing with Trump?
Trump's up to some shady stuff with Russia.
You thought about that.
They've got stuff.
Why you jumped to conclusion? That was never the case. It came back saying it was
all over the TV for years.
Wait a minute, this is on TV, so you believe that, but you don't believe this?
This is on TV for a minute and a half, Pat.
But when it was,
you know what?
I'm
a Trump fan now because of Joe Bobulinski.
It's not about.
What are you trying to say?
It's not about being a Trump fan.
How many people hate Trump on the Republican side?
Yeah.
Ted Cruz talks shit about him.
Okay.
Lindsey Graham talks shit about him. Jeb Bush talks shit about him.
Yeah.
Every single one of these guys talks shit about him. And what did you say? Well, of course, they lost to him. He slaughtered them. Why would he not be spiteful against them?
This is not.
So this dude got screwed over by a Hunter Biden deal. Why would he
not?
not?
It's a whole different story.
Yeah, because you don't put yourself out and make yourself the biggest name in the country now, right before the election. His life's in danger.
100%.
Literally.
100%.
You don't do that.
So what's the upside? Why would he do it? Because he has so much integrity?
Because he said he's a patriot. Yes.
Oh,
this guy served.
Because this guy's got integrity. He's a patriot.
What would
he's
his
talking about stuff that happened in 2017?
Over $5 million?
2017.
He's doing it because he's seen corruption at the highest level happen in front of him, and he wants to set the record straight. And you know what, Ricky? Here's what I said on the podcast last week that they laughed at me. Deep down, I don't think Biden wants to win this election. I don't think he wants to be president. He knows everything that's in his background. It's a house of cards. It's going to come crumbling down.
He would
no, it isn't. It's not stupid.
He
would prefer not to win the presidency and open himself up to this every single day.
He's raised $1.5 billion. He's done every debate. He's done everything for the last week for him not to want to win the presidency.
Boys. This just proves that people who are going to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump, and people who are going to vote for Biden are going to vote for Biden.
That's a great point.
And that's that.
But I don't think. Why can't you look at this as a psychological situation? What's wrong with someone not wanting to do something? That's all I'm saying.
So
and I think in his heart he would prefer not
Danielle,
to be the president.
what did this do for you?
Let's
hear your opinion.
I'm going to say this much. If he happened to have heard Leslie Stahl, because again, two things happen the same day. I don't think coincidence exists in this world, ever, anywhere. If on the same day she's saying there is no corroboration over and over and over again, maybe he's throwing up his hands and saying, yes, there is corroboration.
I don't think he could have done it that quickly. I think this had to have been planned before he released. This was everything's timing right now. They've got a schedule.
If you're asking if they're hanging on to this, if you're asking why did it come out today, it's 100% part of Trump's strategy. It's 100% strategic. If you think why Sasha Cohen's like the story has really become big today and the video is being released when people are watching it, it's because Giuliani was going after, Hunter stuff, and so now they have to undermine Giuliani and they're hanging on to embarrass him, and it was easy to do. If anybody, guys, for the last 2 months, we've all been saying the same thing. October is going to be the dirtiest, ugliest, scariest month of the year.
It is.
Nobody's surprised.
Can you imagine Halloween?
When I saw the Giuliani thing, I'm sitting there saying, by the way, he went on Howard Stern. I don't know if you saw when he was on Howard Stern. They asked him about this on Howard Stern. They said, so what do you think about this? And he was trying to get me, but I told him I knew what it was trying to do because I've seen that guy before. That stuff may have worked before, but it doesn't work today. And I knew what they were doing. Then the girl, who's the girl on Howard Stern that's been with them for a while?
Robin.
What's her name?
Robin.
So she says, well, is there anything you want to tell us that may come out later on? You know what he said? I don't remember anything. First of all, of course you remember everything.
This is Rudy? Who's he
This is
talking
Rudy.
about?
So when this comes out, it's going to look very, very awkward when this thing comes out. But for me, when I see something like this, and you show me proof of communication, this is bad news. When the emails of Hillary were taken out, that was bad news. Okay, that's terrible news because, you know, if they were able to see the emails, it's proof. You're going to sit there and say, like WikiLeaks, remember how much of a role that guy played in the election last time?
Julian Assange,
when new things would come up because it's proof. It's email.
Well,
it's
again,
written. If he can prove it, this is going to be ugly.
In theory, the FBI is sitting on this laptop. Why
Since
are they
2019.
sitting? Why are they sitting on the laptop?
Why are they?
So if he's going up in front of the Senate tomorrow with his corroborating evidence, then the Senate can say to the FBI, "Why are you sitting on this laptop?" I mean, again, we as the American people don't know why the FBI is dragging their feet on this.
Yeah.
We should know.
We
should know regardless of who it's about. If it's a matter of national security.
But Adam, if you don't mind, Pat. Adam, look, bro, here's the reality behind things. Anybody that goes publicly pro-Trump or anti-Biden gets ruined. It's that simple. So it's not just some Joe Blow jumping on the TV, risking his entire reputation and his whole family. You go pro-Trump and anti-Biden publicly, you're ruined because the media will ruin you. And that man's face will be played back or said or he lied or he's lying. I don't know how many times. Like there's an element to going pro-Trump and anti-Biden right now, in this day and age, today, at whatever 8 o'clock or 7:50 Texas time, bro, it's damn near social suicide.
Well, he's got something in common. He's got something in common with Trump. He and Trump both gave to a bunch of Democrats.
Well, yeah, right. So
he said that.
100%.
But the difference between him is Trump gave to Democrat and Republican. Trump gave to both sides. He only gave to Democrats. Only. Big difference.
Yeah, so is it really just some Joe Blow on there saying I have 3 phones and look at this? I mean, would you ruin your reputation?
Here's a good question to ask. Have you already made up your mind who you're voting for?
Yes.
Have you already made up your mind? Have you already made up your mind?
I have not.
Have you already made up your mind? Adam, have you already made up your mind who you're voting for?
I'm still 90% Biden, but
okay.
if Trump's got 10%,
so then let me ask you this. If you're watching this, do you think Adam has already made up his mind who is voting for him? Tomorrow we can get video comes out that Biden shoots somebody.
I'm pretty sure I made up my mind, but I have not cast my ballot yet.
Okay, so then you have made up your minds. That's a different story.
But I have not cast my ballot yet.
But she hasn't made up her mind. So let's talk to Danielle. So all the undecided voters. What are you looking for to make your decision who you're going to vote for?
I want to find out who's going to talk like an adult and tell me about the policies that they're going to pursue. Over and over again.
Okay.
The one point that Leslie Stahl scored in that interview was she kept saying, you're saying there's an alternative to Obamacare if it gets turned over. What is it? Just give it to me in a few sentences. And he said, I can take you after and show you. Sorry. He should be able to say at this point in one paragraph in a sound bite as any politician should be, this is exactly what I'm going to do for healthcare in America, and this is how I'm going to do it, and I've had this many people vetting the plan, and he should be able to put it in 3 or 4 sentences or in 2 minutes.
Sure. And you know, he should be able to do that at the exact same time Joe Biden says how he's going to put an end to Antifa and uprisings throughout this country.
And how are you
some
going to
of
do
this
that?
stuff.
Exactly.
Answer the question.
I want to hear substantive answers from both of them. I want to see who can actually play the adult in the room.
Here's a different question for you. Here's a different question for you. Here's a different question for you. The different question is...
that's off. It was the computer.
The next question for you is this. So, for you, what are your top things you look for when you vote? So go, number one, I look for this. Is it economy first? If you can kind of go through this, China, where are you at with your list?
There's a brand new poll out today. Number 1 is the economy. Number 2 is the coronavirus. Period, end.
What is it for you?
Same things.
Okay, got it.
Same things. I tend to be with the average American. We've had 2 days with 1,000 deaths. I mean, let me tell you what they do on Twitter if you talk about cases rising. People are like, it's a hoax. I'm like, fine. We'll leave it to fatalities. We'll wait until hospitalizations are going up, which they are in Wisconsin, in Michigan, a lot of swing states right now, as it gets colder. Yeah. But people want to know what's the future for the economy and what's the future for the coronavirus. Nobody wants to shut down again, but they want to know what the leader's plan is. If we're not shutting down, how are you going to make sure my small business stays open?
Yeah, but you answered a coronavirus question. That's an economy question. I would put the coronavirus 25th on my list of things that I would use.
In the middle of a pandemic, coronavirus is 25th on your list?
Because I'm capable of taking care of myself and my family and making sure that we make it
in the middle of a pandemic.
I'm speaking on behalf of the 25th.
What's it for you?
in the top 5. Clearly, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now.
Wait, you're looking at this
25th.
the wrong way. I'm speaking on behalf of the 25% of American businesses, small businesses that are closing because the people who frequent their businesses are afraid to come out of their homes because there's no cohesive policy. It's not.
Okay, but there's two sides to that.
There-
Are
no,
they freaked
no.
out by the message that they're getting constantly?
Yes. No, they
I mean,
no.
and
What
that's
we're
not for
talking
people
about
that deny it.
educated
Everybody knows
Americans
it's out
probably
there.
can
freaked
do
out by
their
the
own
dead
homework.
bodies that they
Hey,
see.
look, I live in California. It's all a scam as far as what Gavin Newsom is doing, as far as
So,
shutting down
that
Disneyland,
is-
shutting down Universal
Again-
Studios, destroying Anaheim, destroying Orange
Again,
County.
that is to the absolute extreme, and he's the most guilty for putting small businesses out of business permanently. I want for a politician to tell me how they're going to keep it safe for me to keep my business, but not how they're going to shut me down and keep me shut down. What's happening to California is ridiculous. I mean, they should be putting up a wall at the border because these people are leaving California in the droves.
Danielle, question. I want you to give 2 grades. Trump's handling of the economy, Trump's handling of the coronavirus. What would you grade Trump?
I would say his
And by the way,
handling.
she's an economist here, so
I would say that his handling of the economy has been a solid B.
solid B for Trump.
Solid B. I would say that his handling of the coronavirus has been a solid C.
C.
Here-
Or worse.
here-
So it's a B minus,
He
C
keeps
plus.
falling back on Fauci and saying, but he said not to wear a mask, and then he changed his mind. You want a leader who's like, wait a minute, I've got this, the epiphany, the light bulb goes off. I can think for myself. I can do my own homework, and I can come out with my, I don't have to rely on somebody to tell me what my policy should be. I am the leader of the free world. I can figure it out on my
But
own.
you can't say that. Okay, so let's just say you can say that, but it's tough to say that, and then on the other side, when he does it on the military side, you said, what do you know about military? You can't make a decision for these guys have been to war, you have been to war. So it's either you can take that position, but you also have to say, you ought to listen to the military, you ought to listen to Fauci, or you got to take the position saying, no, you're the commander-in-chief. You don't listen to the generals. You do the research, you make the decision. You don't listen to your
Well, with a
leader that's
situation like
Fauci.
this, if somebody says, and this is the fatal flaw of any economist.
Yeah.
If the facts change and you keep your bias, you're going to go down with the ship. So if the facts
I agree with that.
changed and you don't change your mind, then that just means you're too rigid in your thinking.
Sure, sure, but also if you go to it,
And maybe he discounts what Fauci thought. That's fine. Maybe he moves on and gets himself a new expert. Who knows? If he's like, well, this guy's waffling, he's going back and forth. Last week it was no mask, this week it's this mask. Maybe I'll go find somebody who's objective, who I can look to new and different scientific guidance from.
But if you look at the beginning of this thing, like if you look back from when he started to be president, I put myself, when I'm going to speak, I put myself in a position like, for example, with Trump, right? He's been attacked for how many years, right? So when they say, hey, this corona thing is going to come and possibly ruin the economy, was it a good idea for him to say it was a hoax? No. But when you're always attacked, you have to, and it's not the smartest thing to do as a president, you have to assume that you're just getting attacked again. But let's move away from that, which I don't agree that he did that. But if we look at February and March, in February, because I'm from California, Pelosi was in shit city, which is San Francisco, telling everybody, come out. It's okay. We're good. Everything's under control. Come visit us.
And that needs to be played over and over and over
but that's
again.
the thing, Danielle. It's not. And there's so many. Cuomo said, we want to thank the president. He's doing a good job. He said that. The president of Arizona, governor of Arizona, every governor said he's doing a great job. He's doing as best as he can. Thank you. Why aren't they playing these videos? They accuse him of, it's a hoax, it's your fault, everybody's dying. But yet, every single Democrat, including Pelosi, the House Speaker, she was in San Francisco, in the middle of the city, February 28th, saying, we're good.
Come to
visit us.
Chinatown.
It's okay.
Come to
Here's the biggest thing.
Come to
The
Chinatown.
coronavirus is
Bullshit.
a political issue.
It's a
should
fact.
have never been.
But it is. That is the reality.
Yes.
But this is the only country. This is the only country in the world where it is a political issue.
What do you mean
the
it should have
fact
never
is,
been?
It should have never been a political issue. No.
But why did it become a political issue?
Because the Democrats can use it to try to get Trump
But I
out.
want to hear what you said. Why did it become a political issue?
I don't think it. No, I think it became a political issue because the politicization of the mask itself is at Trump's feet.
No, that's not the question. Though. Why did it become a political issue?
Because Trump made it one.
So it's Trump made it a political issue.
In my view.
Tell me why.
Look, Nancy Pelosi should have never been in Chinatown saying, come on out. At that point, Trump himself should have come out and said, that's reckless. and he should have called her out and stuck with it. But instead, he's waffled back and forth. You heard the 60 Minutes interview today.
Yeah.
I don't know about masks. They might be good. They might possibly be bad.
But it's also,
you
if
have
I'm
to have
leaning
one
on an
answer if you're a
expert,
leader.
If I'm leaning on an expert, Fauci, who changes his mind every other day, who the hell do I listen to?
Does he? Do
So
you
one day
keep
you
a
tell
close
me-
manager next to you if
do
you find out that he's wrong, or do you
1
replace
minute
him?
masks don't work in March, then you tell me it works, then you tell me this, then you don't wear a mask, then you're Fauci, you're at a Washington National game sitting in the middle of two people and you're not wearing a mask. Oh, but you took a test, but you don't know if they took a test. Danielle, there is so much hypocrisy
I understand.
on what they did, the media, to spin this thing into political thing, to do whatever they can to hurt the economy because they knew one thing. You know how this thing works. If economy's good, if the president's Obama, if the president's Bush, if the president's Clinton, we're going to do it 2 terms.
Look,
if the economy's bad, they're not.
What should Trump have done? I will.
If we don't shut down the economy, I want to ask this question. If we don't shut down the economy, and the approach was taken in a different way, Dow today's at 35. What is the chances of Biden even having a chance to win?
80-20.
Stock market
Biden would win?
The stock market is at an
80%
all-time
Trump
high.
would
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. Yeah. So what I'm
Where is
saying
it now?
Wait, just.
It's because they turn it into a political thing. Look
Pat,
at California,
step
Florida.
back
You
for
got
just a
Disneyland
second.
against Disney World. Same company, 2 different states. One of them, let's go, doesn't open up the park for 200 days. The other one opens up July 11th.
That was a great episode
Jobs
you did on that.
But
Shout
the
out
point
to
I'm
that
trying to
episode.
make you is same company, and Bob Iger's a hardcore Democrat, and he himself stepped out and said, I'm not doing anything with Newsom. They politicized it. You can't say Trump politicized it.
Wait.
There's no way in the world you can
Wait.
say Trump politicized it.
Look, you're
Why would
you're
he wanna
missing
politicize
the
it?
core issue. He calls it the China virus, okay? But he doesn't make the connection to it being the China virus and saying many places in America the economy suffered because China didn't release
But
the
that's
data.
not politicized. That's
no,
not politicized.
that's not. But I'm saying he
That's
needs
just
to follow
saying maybe
through.
he didn't do the right thing, or maybe he didn't use the right tactic
many
or
of our
strategy.
allies, Australia, many of our allies shut down because the politicians were in the dark because
Danielle,
China did not release the
Danielle,
data.
when's the last time since you've been born you've seen the economy shut down and nobody going to work?
Pat, there were aerial images of the crematoriums over Wuhan. Everybody was scared shitless.
I know. I'm with you. I'm not saying anything. But
again,
I'm asking
we didn't
you
know how bad it was because China kept all the data. So what are you supposed to do?
We're on the same page here. So first of all, number one enemy to me is China. We're on the same page when it comes down to China. And to me, being somebody that's from Iran, if Iran and China wants Biden, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about why the Iran and Chinese leadership, the government is excited about Biden become a president, not Trump. Why? Because you're not going to get
Well, who's
the
going to be
sanctions.
harder on China?
Of course, Trump's going to be harder on China. So for me, if we're going to that perspective, I'm pure economy, guys. By the way, we're getting started, so let me give you the details of today's debate. So, by the way, that was great. Phenomenal, everybody. This was very good. Location, Belmont University, Nashville, Tennessee. I've been to Nashville, Tennessee. Shout out to all the folks who've been to Silverado in Nashville. It's a great nightclub. They taught me how to dance country.
That's shout out.
Yeah, they are.
Silverado
Good
nightclub.
people. Good
Wait,
people.
Where's that on YouTube?
Nightclub.
I'm bookmarking that on YouTube. Way.
Moderator Kristen Welker, which we all know is not a Trump fan. It's going to be interesting how that goes. She's from MSNBC. Topic of debates, fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. Format, the Commission on Presidential Debate said this week that it was changing on debate rules so that each candidate will be silenced while the other gives a 2-minute opening statement at the start of each 15-minute segment during the rest of the discussion in each block. Having said that, I think we're getting close to it.
Pat, one quick question.
Yes.
Do the words Hunter Biden get mentioned in the first 30 minutes?
By Trump, yes.
By Trump?
By anyone other than Trump?
I don't think so.
Well, she's,
No
hey,
way.
something came to light today.
No
In fact,
way.
there was a press conference an hour ago. Mr. Biden, did you see that? Have you have any comments?
She will fall back
What
on
a
the
great
fact that until
opportunity for her to be a journalist.
until the evidence is made public,
She's got
she
an
can't.
earpiece right now.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Anderson
put it up
Cooper's
already?
telling her what to say.
Start showing it that we're, meaning in the screen. Okay, good. So they can see that.
Do you have any opinions, Pat, on how this is going to turn out tonight?
I think it's going to
What do
be
you think?
uglier than the first one. I don't think it's going to be.
Uglier than
Is
the
that
first
possible?
one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be uglier than the first one because imagine today what their day looks like with all these different stories.
Yeah.
And in your brain, you're trying to find out what angle.
Well, at least
and
most
everyone's
Americans
giving
are-
you advice. Everyone's telling you what angle you should take. Everyone's trying to, especially Biden, like they've told him a million different things on what to try to do.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get all your angles in place. So all this week that Biden's been preparing, it's irrelevant because 5 different events happened today.
Yeah.
So whatever you've been preparing for, put it out the window.
What does Trump need to do in order to win this debate, and what does Biden
Trump's got to be
need to do?
Trump. Trump's got to be Trump.
Stay with the facts.
Yeah, and
You know,
Biden's got to try
Thank
to
you.
get away from the stories as much as possible.
I'm interested to see the human
By the way,
element.
look at her. She's ready to crush Trump.
She is.
She just cocked up her
It
eyebrows.
is so obvious.
Hey, by the way, the human element with Biden is what I'm going to watch for. This is his family that's involved. It's not just policy
Yeah,
in the country.
yeah, that's true.
This is one of his sons is dead.
Yeah.
The other one's alive and is the villain of the U.S. right now. So
And she's a Latina, right?
She is.
Kristen Walker? Yeah.
Yes. I just want everybody to know watching this, on behalf of the Latino community, we do not support that woman.
She hasn't even started yet,
I
bro.
don't care. I
That's
already know
some
what she
bias
stands-
right there,
No,
Ricky.
no, it's not bias. I already know what she stands for.
What does she stand for?
Look, you were talking about earlier.
What does she
about,
stand for?
Look, she's anti-Trump.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, Danielle was making some interesting points earlier. She says, I want to know what he's going to do. Here's the reality. I go off of history, because history always repeats itself. What did Winston Churchill said? He says, in order for us to look at the future, we have to go look deep in the past.
Okay.
47 years, what has Biden done? He's done the crime bill in 1993 and mass incarcerated blacks, right?
Prompter's up. You know, here's the last thing. Biden
And
has
put my
spent
kids in
5 days
pages.
memorizing his lines.
Let's hear
Trump
it. Raise
thinks on
the
his
audio.
feet.
In Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, guys, let's have a good debate. Bring it in.
News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate.
At least we got
between
popcorn.
President Donald J.
Every
Trump
family in
and
America has
Vice
popcorn.
President
Yeah,
Joe
America's
Biden.
Cheetos.
Tonight's debate is
Not
sponsored
Cheetos.
by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols
Can we turn it up a little bit,
designed
gentlemen?
by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
No mask.
Oh,
mask.
God.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Ya empezamos mal.
What a responsible man.
You know,
Seriously.
we were two at one time.
Such a so full of morale.
Trump's ready. I do.
A nice air depth
Very
right
good
there.
evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is
Make
their
the
turn
screen
to
bigger,
answer.
put us on
And
the
the
bottom.
commission will
Flip
turn it
it.
off exactly when the 2 minutes have
commission.
expired. After that, both microphones will remain on. But on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're
sounds
fighting it
poised.
hard. There is a spike. There was a spike
Let's
in
see what
Florida,
happens.
and it's
Yeah,
now
I
gone.
know.
There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks.
He had
and
it.
it's
He
going
has
to be
experience.
delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it. And I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. but I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
His teeth like
We're in a situation where there are
off?
1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day.
He's right.
And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
It's almost comical.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you and your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, because this is new information.
By the way,
You
Joe's
have
answer
said a
was
vaccine
nothing.
is coming
He
soon.
didn't give any advice
That's
except for
right.
masking.
It could take well into
Blame.
2021
And I'll save
at
it.
the earliest for enough Americans
National
to get
standards.
vaccinated. And even then, they
the
say the
government
country will
has
be
to
wearing masks and distancing
decide for
in
every
2022. Is your timeline realistic?
He
No,
only
I
said
think my timeline's
encouraged,
going to be
so that was
more
not
accurate.
exactly
I don't
strong.
know that they're
I will
counting
encourage
on
everyone
the
to wear a
military
mask.
the way I do.
Because he
We have
can't
our
force it, he
generals
can't
lined
mandate.
up,
Right.
one in particular that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same
Thumbs
fellow
up
who
with
told
his
you this
mouth.
is going to end by Easter last time.
telling
This is
you.
the same fellow who told you that,
That's not how he
don't
sounds.
worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
I don't think we're going to
plan.
have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now. But it was a far less lethal disease.
Biden's sleeping?
Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families, every meeting I had, and I had to meet them.
Does the guy on SNL do
It would
Trump
be
better than
horrible
Trump
to
does
have
Trump?
canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with
start to the debate,
COVID-19 and
just so you
can
know.
pass
It's
it.
actually-
Vice President Biden,
These are
I
two
wanna talk
adults so
broadly
far.
about
And she's letting them
strategy,
talk.
though.
I actually like the way she's doing it.
30 seconds, please. and then I have a question.
No, number one.
I know Ricky's
He
people,
says,
he's already
we're,
encouraged them not to like
we're
her.
learning to live with
She's
it.
professional.
People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I
very
take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault.
Wow.
They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
That's the first thing he's ever done to be unified.
That's what he needs to be saying.
When we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say?
Your
He
people
said,
said it
don't
was
worry,
fine.
it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach.
He did say this. He
was
said we'd
kidding
all
when
be in
said that.
Easter
A lot of
church
people thought it was
services. He said
serious.
that.
The whole
he's an
range of
optimist.
things the president has said,
And
even
Biden
today,
is the
he
opposite.
thinks we are in
To Biden's
control.
point, there are
We're
1,000
about
people
to
dying
lose
every day right now. We're back up to
200,000
that
more
level.
people.
It's serious for their
But
families.
do we
Perhaps just to
fully
finish
believe all
this.
that data? Some of that data
was
has been
getting
proven
to
to
that,
not be
just
true,
finish
and I know
this.
for a fact
If you
that some of that data is not
just
true.
study excess
He said
mortality,
he
it takes it
shouldn't
all out of the
trust.
wash.
And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco.
That's right.
But when I
That's
closed,
right.
he said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't
certainly
say
did.
coercion,
You certainly
and
did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about
Oh,
closing the
my
border
gosh,
to Chinese
Come on,
coming
my
to the
guy,
United
don't do
States.
All right,
that.
I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's-
That's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested that support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
It's so true.
What I would say is I'm going
She's
to shut
asking
down
good,
the
fair
virus, not the
questions.
country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses
my
have gone
God,
under,
stop
why
blaming,
schools are
bro. Give an
closed, why so many
explanation.
people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts that are
There was no
passing
big cheer
for billions
here,
of
but
dollars
there
to
were
make sure people
cheers
have
in
the
some
capacity.
houses
You
in
haven't
America
ruled
right
out
now.
more shutdowns.
Just saying. He plays a lot of golf.
I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level,
The number
everybody
one-
says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more
states in
control.
America.
But when you do open,
What's that?
give the people the capacity
Four
to be
states
able
in
to
America
open and
are
have the
safer.
capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President
Well,
Trump,
I
you-
think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk
Seems
about
civil.
shutdowns. But forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Like you said.
There's abuse,
Country.
tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that we're going to make sure that we can open safely. And by the way,
He just
all you
scored a
teachers
point.
out
I'm
there,
sorry.
Not that many
Yeah,
of you are
but
going to
3
die.
months
so
ago
don't
we were
worry
doing
about
this.
it.
There's social
Don't worry
distancing
about
in
it.
restaurants.
Come on.
All that stuff is already
President Trump, let me
happening.
follow up.
Plexiglass, we're already doing.
That's all.
That was
where
3
we
months
live
ago when
in.
we even have Department of Health and Services come to our office.
Ghost town. It's a ghost town.
Say
When
what
you
about
talk
Biden?
Plexiglass. These are
The guy's not
restaurants that are
sleepy. He's
dying.
not dementia.
These are
He's out there
businesses with
talking
no
point to
money.
point with Trump.
putting a
It's an even debate right now. Nobody's winning right now. It's even right now.
disagreeing with
I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped
I
around
mean,
the
my husband's got a salesman. He's 45-year-old marathon runner. His kid got the coronavirus. I mean, marathon runner, buff guy.
Look at New York and what's happened to my
2 weeks in the hospital. Damn near died.
My wife's
And it was
entire family got coronavirus.
Random.
Her mom, her stepdad, her sister, her 2 nieces. They were bored after 1 day because they wanted to get out of
But
the
that's
house.
what I'm saying. It's random. I mean, this 45-year-old marathon runner lands in the hospital for 2 weeks.
He must have had some sort of other.
No, he wasn't. There was
Must have been a
no.
different coronavirus.
It's random. That's the problem with this thing. It's random.
Coronavirus.
Ricky, you had the corona for how long?
The states in the Midwest.
I think it was 10 days.
10 days.
3 months ago? 3 months ago?
10 days.
July 15th.
No. I just isolated for 10 days, 15, 14 days.
And how did it feel?
I just felt fatigued. Just tired. That was it.
Like the flu? Like worse?
Yeah, like the flu.
You want to get it again?
I mean, I'm not, it's not going to kill me.
And nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000
Yep.
people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when
about-
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now, it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote,
she said the
a
Fauci word.
disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said
he just got mad
one
for
of
the
your
first time.
colleagues, recorded that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us.
Yeah, but for someone to accuse you of being responsible for a disease, anyone would get
Unfortunately, he's on tape with Bob Woodward saying it.
But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York
That's why
Times
Trump just got
the other
mad for the
day
first
that, in
time.
fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing, and a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one, I
on.
don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, you know. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
They're all. At least he's not naming names, so ExxonMobil doesn't have to come out with another advisory.
And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty.
What's the price?
That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it.
This one's going to get
I don't
very
think
ugly
he's
for you in a
spoken a
minute.
lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians.
See, now he's deflecting. He's not saying what he would do.
Did you not hear what he said to the Iranians about a week and a half ago?
We are in a situation
The hell that they would face if there was... He's accusing him of not standing up to these foreign countries.
Right, but he's accusing him instead of saying what he would do.
What is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information
that
is Russian.
Wow, that was
not true.
Get very
and then what
ugly
happens?
for you.
Look at Trump.
Oh, Trump's
then
happy.
you find out that
He should not have done it first.
About Russia is wanting
The
to make
file
sure
in his head just
that
went
I do not
Hunter.
get elected the next
Big
president of the United
mistake.
States because they
You
know
opened it
I
up.
know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question.
He's gonna
why
wait.
is
He's,
that being done?
he's gone from orange to red.
Any
It's
country
on.
that interferes with us will, in
He
fact,
matches his tie.
pay a price
This is
because
bad.
it's affecting our sovereignty.
Joe, take cover.
President Trump, same question to you.
to
Let me
read
ask the
first.
question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got
Now we get to
$3.5
watch
million.
and see what color
Your family got
Biden
$3.5
turns.
million, and you know someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now about your thing last night, I knew
You
all
got
about
Tony
that.
money from China.
And through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. in 30
Be straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president
they
paid
gave it to
50
Hunter,
times the
and then
tax
they pay
in
you.
China, has a secret bank account with China,
So he's not
does
lying.
business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever,
That
ever.
CEO
Number
might have
one.
some other
Number
evidence.
two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return.
Yeah, 'cause
What are
your
you
son has it
hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it. And it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But
He really
much more
needs to stop
importantly
saying
than
this.
that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
released
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think.
God.
Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man.
What do you mean?
Joe, what's that all about?
Yeah,
It's
equity.
terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of
respond.
this.
They're
I'm gonna
goading
let
each
you both
other.
respond very quickly.
That
You
was
just
what-
said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit is
deadline for
finished.
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a
people in there,
Okay.
deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
We got the
I want to
prepaid
ask
part.
you both about questions
Do you
regarding
believe him on the
your
tax thing?
potential
We got that.
Danielle, do you believe him on the tax
questions
thing?
that have been raised to give
Still
you both
under
a
audit?
chance to talk about this more broadly.
I do
Respond
not
very
know
quickly, and
the
I'll get to
law because this has never
Why didn't
occurred
he say
before,
this for
whether or
4
not
years?
the statute of limitations
Show us.
goes on hold as long as he's in
Just
office.
Show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years
Everybody
you're going to
knows.
release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
Very
So
quickly, President Trump, and then I want to get to 2 questions to both of you on this.
I was put through a phony witch hunt
Oh, boy.
for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because
All right.
the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly.
Get
Vice
back to
President Biden, there
substance.
have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president.
Wow,
In
we're
retrospect,
going there.
was anything about
you go.
those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Great job.
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
You deflected on that.
Let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one
Terrible
thing?
response.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly,
100%
and then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly.
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business.
Why
You've
were they so
personally
quick on that? They
promoted
didn't spend
your
a lot of time
properties
on that.
abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank
They're
account
listed
you're
by the New York
referring to,
Times. He's
which
never
is-
released
everybody
that.
knows about it. It's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up
Okay,
money
President
every
Trump,
place
thank
he
you. We
goes.
do
Not
need to
true.
move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly.
China.
There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
Thank you.
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he is. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China.
That's
Up,
true.
Not down. We are
Unfortunately.
making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to
Exactly what he said
China,
at the town
these
hall.
are the
This is
rules. You
nothing
play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did.
But for 8 years under Obama, China was never paid
All right,
the price.
Let's talk about North
when there was
Korea.
plenty of
I have
evidence.
to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and
His
then we're
son
going to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
true.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make
She's doing
China
good.
pay? You've said you're
She's
going to
not doing
pay.
good.
China is
She's
paying. They're paying
protecting.
billions and
Not
billions
once
of
has she
dollars.
raised her
They just
voice
gave
like that on the other
$28
one.
billion.
New sanctions?
He wants to
No.
know
They
what
just
policy
gave
he's going to
$28
do.
billion to our farmers.
He wants to talk about
Taxpayers'
emails.
money.
China. It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid out. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also,
The yuan
I
is
charged them
the yuan is stronger than it's been in
25% on
years.
dumped steel,
The
because they
Chinese
were
stock
killing
market is
our
at
steel
highest
industry. We
since
were not gonna have a
1996
steel industry.
yesterday.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires
great deflect.
because we have to wait another month.
Very
or so.
good deflector
Or are we
right
going to be
there.
able to pay the mortgage? Or who's
But
going to tell
neither
her
of them have
she
said what
can't
they're going to
go
do to
back
China.
No.
Neither.
Community college.
Correct.
They're the decisions you're making.
They're just wasted
Trump
airtime.
has 4 years of experience of what he's done to China.
We
Yeah,
should be talking
but it's semiconductors, not soybeans. Sorry. He's not focused on the right issues.
I do want to turn to 10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
Let's
Get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea. President Trump
That was
met
so
with
good.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3
Everybody can
times.
see through
You've
that.
talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
gotta
for
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's okay. You know what, North Korea? We're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have
leaders
to
of
move
other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot
a
of
good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
Your
a-
response.
And we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you. We're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk about
He left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to move
left
on.
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And in
need to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to
2
all
or
of our
3 months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated, it's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision, run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down, everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families. Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice, they want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care. And we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option.
What I'm going to do is whatever Kamala tells me to do.
Public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid, and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I did not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden.
That was his first. That was his best 2 minutes yet.
He's accusing you of wanting socialized
Because he
medicine.
laid out a
What did you say
plan.
to
That was
people
substance.
Who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's
I
your
say
response
it's
to that?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, we're, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick?
I'm worried if you
because
become
you've
president.
lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
but somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
He goes for a year.
Even your boy thinks she's doing a good job.
We do have a number of
Give a shout out to the Latino community. Let them know she's doing all
Like
right.
question.
We're going to get to
It's the same thing with socialized
She keeps us up.
Vice
Give her a
President
thumbs
Trump knows how
up.
to play with people, man.
You're gonna wait till the
he's
end.
building up her confidence.
I recognize
Making her
facts.
feel good.
Adam, I wish we could both do the
I
same.
know, not the fake news out there.
Yeah, that's for
in
damn
fact
sure.
provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over
That should scare
$750 billion
everybody when a
over 10
Democrat
years
says
to
that.
do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans,
God.
the cheaper
We're
plans,
screwed.
lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Tristan, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine, and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
It
let's let
was
Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's a
Biden,
very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against.
good
That was
line.
actually
The
very
idea
good.
That was
that
strong.
we're in a
That was actually
situation
very
that they're
good.
going to destroy Medicare. This is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he
How come she's not
continues
cutting him
to
off?
withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records.
I think she
He
wants to
tried
ask about
hurt Social
stimulus. She
Security
wants to
years
say,
ago.
want to talk
Let's
about something
move
in
on.
Washington, D.C. Let's get to
Mr.
it.
President, I have to move on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay,
I
let's
think
move
his
on to the
analysts are
next
saying
question.
No matter-
Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the
3
Wall
years of
Street,
this crisis?
$700 billion more dollars.
delusional individual.
$700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? what happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on.
401ks are through the roof.
We're going to move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
For the record, 45% of Americans do not own stocks in any way, shape, or form. 55%, the majority do.
I did not know 45% don't own
45% of Americans do not own stocks.
Or not.
Well, 55% is a majority. A majority of Americans do own stocks.
And people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve
That's
it.
right.
I do.
But you're the
That's
president.
right.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
The Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not.
This is true. This is all about McConnell. It has nothing to do with, I mean,
why isn't he talking to his Republican
the White
friends?
House has agreed to $2.2 trillion.
We made a
Biden,
deal.
because
the
let me ask
Republicans
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal?
There
for
you
the
go.
American
Good
people?
question.
Oh, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer.
For 3-point-something
This is
trillion.
It's not new.
It's gigantic.
It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion for local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets and then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with these guys?
Mitch McConnell did say let the states go bankrupt.
Why can't McConnell and Pelosi speak?
High crime.
Why can't those two speak?
Because the Republicans won't agree to anything with a
It was a way of getting a lot of money,
trillion price tag.
Trump said he wanted a $2 trillion though.
Well, I know, but he wants to get elected.
From our people's pockets.
You don't believe him?
People that come into our
Oh, I think he would sign it. I think he would sign 2-point-whatever trillion.
What he said, $3 trillion?
The inner city things we were talking about.
I'd love to help him.
No,
Everybody
it's not.
all over the world
It's not.
will start pouring into our country.
This is not Mnuchin and Pelosi. This is not the White House and Pelosi. This is McConnell.
This was a way of spending on
McConnell's standing
things
in
that
the way
had
of
nothing
this.
to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right, I want
If I
to.
get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government a deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
One thing
immigration,
very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently.
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an
really
hour. Is
like,
that still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President Trump,
ruinous.
thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But
reunite
let me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their families,
Let me just tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. And it was a picture of these horrible
Looks like he
cages.
is.
And they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That
That's
was
right.
him.
Do you have a
They built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and
this
through
is true.
gangs.
This is
Vice
true.
President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation.
This is true.
Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. They real tough, we're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over, their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
Did it.
That's
we
true.
changed.
Did not
They built the
separate
cages.
the-
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go.
But Ricky,
It's
most
criminal.
of these families are from Central
It's
America.
criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
Immigration
say
from
this,
Mexico has
they
slowed
went
down for the
back,
past
we
few
brought
years, but-
reporters, everything.
But
They
what
are so
Biden
well
is saying,
taken
I
care
trust me, I know
of.
from a
They're in
personal level,
facilities that were so clean.
he's full of
Some
shit.
of them haven't been.
Well, I know children come over alone.
The
I know
majority,
that.
the majority of them are not coming over here with their parents. And it's just, and I know it from a
Let me ask
personal
about your
level. They're not
immigration
coming with
policy,
their
Mr.
parents.
Vice
Oh, I know people
President. The Obama
who've paid the coyotes
administration
if they're
didn't
here to bring their children.
Of course, it happens all the time.
Yep.
That's the
What
way.
percentage of people come with their
That's the-
parents
presided
versus
over
these
record
coyotes?
That's the way.
deportations
That's
as
the
well
way
as
my
family
parents got
detentions
here.
at the border
And
before
that's the way it got
changing
here.
course.
My
So
grandma,
why should
my
voters
grandpa was
trust
already
the
over here.
immigration overhaul?
Well, they come with uncles.
You made a mistake.
I lived it. He's full of shit. I've lived it.
Too long
So
to
what
get it
percentage?
right.
Oh,
Coyotes
I mean,
versus parents.
it's not exactly
Bro, believe it or
hard
not,
data.
But
fact,
I don't know, he says he
knows.
think about this. Are you going to go to another country unstable, not knowing where you're going with your kids? Or are you going to go over there first, get stable, and then send your kids?
And that's how it works.
And that's exactly how they do it. So to say that, oh, I'm showing up with my kids and we all got locked up, it's bullshit. It's not true. I know from
Nobody
personal
comes
experience.
with their
No,
kids?
They're going
no,
to be
bro.
immediately certified again.
1%.
That little? Oh, wow.
Of course, bro. You don't know where you're going to live. Even if you get across where you're going to live. You go establish first. My grandpa came first. Then my grandma came, then the kids came.
I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande
your parents,
River,
bro. Stop lying.
and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you.
Stop lying,
They've
bro.
been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders. out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do.
Yes, he did.
And I've changed without having a specific.
No, you didn't, bro.
We
You
got
got
rid of
cages.
catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released, and guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise, why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It
on.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster.
It is a disaster.
murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person
It is a
would come
disaster.
in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country.
That's right.
And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people
Yes,
come back.
that
We
is
have to
also true.
send ICE out
That is
and
also
Border
true.
Patrol out to find
Yes,
them.
it is true,
We
Biden,
would
don't
say,
lie.
come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come
No, they
back.
don't.
Only the
No, they don't.
really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President
Very
Trump, let's
good.
give
You
Vice
have to say
President Biden a
that.
chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know the
section.
law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
Check it out.
All right,
Okay,
let's
great
move
answer.
But we don't have to
The
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be in Los
You're gonna keep using that, bro.
All
You're
right,
full of shit. again.
let's talk
We are
about
so
our next section,
stupid.
which is race in
Same with the
America.
1,500 kids that
And
went
I want
missing.
to talk about
They
the
went
way
missing,
black
and they came
and
out, oh, never
brown
mind, they were never
Americans
missing.
How tall is
experience
Trump?
race in this
6'2"?
country. Part of that
Yeah, he's tall.
experience is
Biden looks
something
like he's
called
6'8"
the
right now.
talk.
I
It
swear.
happens regardless of class. and
You got a bad
income.
angle.
Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents
Nah, it looks
fear
like
for
he's
their
5'8".
children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker. And,
You're really gonna talk about this after you created that 1993 crime bill? Really? Mass incarcerated blacks?
Trump will roast him on it. He'll crush
And
him.
you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American,
Everybody knows
was
that.
to learn more about what was going on. What I didn't, I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a
Just
clear
teed up
plan.
Trump, because that's
as to
what he
how
did.
he's done the last
Exactly,
4
$100
years.
billion
Just
to
give
inner
you
cities.
a
He
shot
just did that.
about accumulating
Legit.
the ability to have
And the
wealth
first
as
step
well
back,
as it is
they
to be
released
free from
4,000
violence.
people into
President
non-violent
Trump, same
criminals.
question to you, and let me
85% being
remind you
black.
of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, He's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994
That's right.
when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators.
That's right. Yes,
and
you
he
did.
said that.
Yes, you did.
Super predators.
It's on video. Don't lie, Biden.
And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities.
Yes, sir.
And then historically black colleges and universities.
10-year program
After 3
funding.
years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back. Because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did. 10-year long-term funding. And I gave them more money than they asked for. Because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again. Because I got very friendly with them. And they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records,
sir.
but your
You beat 'em up.
response
You're
to
right.
that, Vice
My
President.
response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying.
You're such a liar,
The fact
bro.
of the matter is, in 2000,
You're such a liar.
after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people.
We have
He
enough
talked
videos
about
of you saying it, bro.
marauding gangs,
No quotes.
young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of what the crimes,
You want him-
crimes they were
He wanted them to put it over to America.
And
He
talked
told
about
America, we don't care.
Granted, he did,
We don't
in
care
fact,
what they did or why they did
20
it, that we
people, he
created them.
committed
We need to
20
corner them
people
off. I don't want them around my
We
kids.
committed over
He said that
1,000
in 1994. It's on video. It's not
Over
a quote.
1,000. The very law he's talking about is
He's
a
a
law
liar.
that,
There's
in
really no
fact,
comparison. But this guy didn't put it in a bill. This
Barack
other
Obama.
idiot did.
And secondly, we're in a
Put it on the
situation
front
here
page of
where
a newspaper,
the
He
federal
put it on
government-
law. He put it on the laws. He put it on the laws, Adam.
And
Newspaper
one of the
laws.
things-
Which one affects
there
more
should
people?
be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's
No
why I'm
way.
offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories.
To do what? Lock up
Instead
more
of
black
drug
people?
courts, No one should
20
be
billion
going to
times
jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation.
Now
not
you
to
think they should
jail.
go rehab?
We should
Oh,
fundamentally
He's
change the
getting
system.
people out of
That's what we're going to do.
that are
First
so-
Why
step back,
didn't
bro.
he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago,
Exactly.
even less than that? Why
Exactly.
didn't
I
you do
am
it? You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time
Yes.
ago, and you guys did nothing.
Exactly.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama. Because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President
Wow,
Biden, your
that's
response to that, and then I do
Wow.
have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is,
Yeah, we sure do,
Don't
bro.
even
you know
go
his
there.
character,
Don't even
you know
go.
my
Oh
character.
God,
Oh.
really?
You
Did
know
you
our
say that?
reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. I am, the character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the
Go
ballot.
Trump.
Look at us
Keep him on
closely.
this
Let
one.
me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is true
questions.
about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
and I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this where you're going? This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional actors exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison
That's
reform
right,
and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question.
His policies prove it.
Abraham Lincoln
just
is one
want
of the
to
most
create
racist
this
presidents
narrative.
we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys.
Only 5
Last time we were out on stage here, he said, I told them to stand down and stand ready.
He's called them
Come
the poor
on.
boys?
This guy is a dog whistle.
Poor boys are black and Hispanic, by the way.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
No,
follow-up.
he made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did
Abraham
that,
Lincoln.
No, where did that? No.
You said-
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying-
I didn't say
Is she
I'm
gonna ask him
Abraham
the
Lincoln. I
question?
said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me
And you know what?
let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if
Biden
you look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
they've
Biden
treated them
about-
very, very badly.
That's
Just
right.
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration
Yes.
of tens of thousands of
Yes.
young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession.
Yes.
They are sons, they are brothers, they're
Yes.
fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families.
I think
Why
she's
should they vote?
doing
She's
a
doing a good job.
job.
She's doing a good job.
In the
Just
80s,
moderate out of
passed
all of them.
100%. All 100 senators voted for it. A bill on
doing a good job.
She's doing a good
drugs
job.
We're not
and
like
how to
that.
deal
We
with
can
drugs.
be
It was a
on both
mistake.
Yeah.
He
I've
made
been
an
trying to
announcement to
change
the
the
Latino
census.
community.
She's
He's not
pushing
supportive.
her.
I've seen her before not
That's
be.
why
I've seen her before be biased.
To Ricky's credit, if the facts changes, he changes with the
Yeah,
facts.
that's right.
Give her a chance, bro. She's doing good.
They should be going
phenomenal.
into treatment across the board.
That's not what you said in
That's what we
1993,
should
bro.
be spending money. That's why I set up
Well,
drug courts,
much
which
like
were never
you,
funded
he's willing
by
to
our
change.
Republican friends. They
Okay,
should
you're gonna
not be going
use up all
to
that
jail
Purell in
for
like the next
drugs
few
or
seconds.
alcohol
Since the 1800s.
problems. They should be going into
Well, I haven't touched
treatment.
anything.
Treatment.
I've touched my
That's
computer.
what
It's
we've been
just my
trying to
computer.
do. That's what I'm
is
going
he
to get
talking
done
about?
because I think maybe the American
The fact
people
is
have
you
now
did this
seen
bill.
that in fact it was a mistake to pass those laws related to the drug, but they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
fair.
didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action
Yes.
with these politicians.
Yes, exactly.
Why
You got
didn't he
8
get
years,
it done?
bro.
That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
You didn't get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got
out of
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There
the
were
term
over
was up.
1,000 people who were given
That
clemency.
you don't go to
We
federal
in
prison
fact,
for
we're the
minor
ones that put in the
drug
legislation saying
law,
we can look at
violations,
pattern and
bro.
practice of police
Stop
departments
lying.
and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves.
You have
I
to
could
have
go
at
on.
least 1,000
But we
pounds
began
to go
the
to federal
process.
prison, you liar.
We began the process. We lost an
Not a little
election.
sack in your
That's why
pocket.
I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible
he's a
policy.
fool.
I just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this.
A case to
You
become
put
federal.
tens
very
of
hard.
thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
That's
Biden, and then we're going to
good.
move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
He's going to use that.
Did you just
See,
freeze?
He just answered it. We had a Republican Congress.
All right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next
Like
section.
I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got
He's going to eat those words when he does not talk McConnell into doing anything. Sorry.
President Trump, you
No,
say
he was
that
talking about
environmental
talking the
regulations
other
affect
party into
jobs
things.
and
That's
the
what he was
energy
referencing.
They've already agreed.
Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of
Yeah,
you,
you could-
how would
is
you
McConnell-
combat
is
climate
McConnell up
change
for
and
election?
support job growth at
Is
the
It's a
same
very
time?
tight race.
Starting with
Okay,
you,
that's
President Trump,
why
you have
he's
2 minutes
motivated to do
on
what he's doing.
So
McConnell.
we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden,
Industry.
2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit of emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs.
How?
We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a
There's more
position where we're
environmental
going to
destruction
see to
involved
it
in
that we're going
producing
to
an
take
electric
4 million
car.
existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy.
The copper, everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
So.
barrels of oil in the
Yeah, you're not
process,
selling me on the idea, bro.
creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea
You put in
of
electric,
what this is
whatever,
all
that's
gonna
a one
do,
deal
it's gonna
thing. I
create
mean, that's
millions
it's
of
not
jobs.
exactly a
And
long
it's going to
job
clean the
security
environment.
situation.
Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're right.
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate.
He just conflated tax policy with climate change.
And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it could be good politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot more
It will
questions to
destroy our
get to.
country.
So
A lot
let's hear
more
from the Vice
questions. How much
President.
longer is
I have a
this?
number more questions.
I don't know where
No, it's 90 minutes.
100
So that means they have
trillion
2 minutes
dollars.
left? What does that mean?
Give me a break.
I don't know how the network
Plan
works.
This is planned and endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And
Look at
by the
Joe,
way,
he's just heating up right now.
The fastest growing industry in America is the electric,
Now he's forgetting. It's short
solar
circuit.
energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer. Windmills. It's the fastest growing
You got
jobs,
some?
and they pay good prevailing wages,
is
45, 50 bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we
We're
had to
actually
fight
not.
war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive.
That I agree with.
Kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. Got a lot of problems. And
Why
they
do you
have
say
to
we're
make
not
the
energy
windmills in both Germany
independent?
and China.
Because of the type
And
of
the
oil that we
fuels coming
produce,
up, if
we
you're a
can't
believer in
refine it.
carbon
We
emissions,
can sell it,
the
but we still have to
fuels coming up
import
to
because of the
make
type
these
of
massive
oil that our
windmills
refineries
is
can
more than
make into
anything that
gasoline.
we're
So it's about
talking
the
with
type of
natural
oil.
gas,
It's about the
which is
type of oil that we produce.
Find me a scientist
Solar.
that said that.
I love solar.
Natural gas
but solar
we're exporting as
doesn't
well,
quite have
but
it yet. It's
the
not
gasoline in our
powerful
cars, we
yet
still have to import until
to
we
really run our big
build out more
solar
refinery
factories
capacity, which is
that we
really
need
expensive.
to
Saudi Arabia.
compete with the world. So
among others, yes.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want. And what about fracking?
All right,
Now we have to ask
let me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said
bringing it
I
overtime.
oppose fracking.
You said it.
Yes, you did.
I
You
did.
and Camila
Show
said
the
same
tape.
thing,
Put it on your
bro.
website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is,
You just called him out.
Pull it up
I
in
do
10
rule out
minutes.
banning fracking because
Get the
the answer-
fracking video,
we
Kai.
need-
Wow.
We need other
Look at the
industries
smile on
to
Trump's
transition to get to
Joe has
only
helped him out
a
so much
complete
tonight.
zero emissions by 2025.
He really has, though.
What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture
picture
the
tonight.
emissions from the
Joe
fracking.
wins on healthcare,
Capture
sorry.
the emissions from gas.
Does
We
it
can
really?
do that,
He-
and we
he
can do
had a
that by
plan.
investing
What's the
money
plan?
and doing it. But it's a
He
transition
let out 4
to that.
specific.
I
His
have one
public
more
option
question,
thing is
and
not
then
getting rid of
finally,
private
He was
insurance. He's
against
not getting rid of
fracking. He
pre-existing-
said it.
But that's what
Hang on, hang on.
Tomorrow, I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, But you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking and or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, or Black, or Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. Okay. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All right.
And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final
in the
question
oil
for
patch.
both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute.
First time I've ever heard about this
plants
issue.
and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up.
There have been quite a few
People that
disasters
live
lately.
close to an oil well is more important than some of the social stuff that's going on here right now?
River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time.
Why they're
When
not
my
doing
mom get in
tax
the car
plans and
when
talking
her
about this,
first
I
frost
just...
to drive me to school, turn to the windshield wiper, there'd be an oil slick in the window.
No.
That's why so many people in my state were dying,
Wow, Joe,
getting
really?
cancer.
You're such
The
a
fact
liar,
is, those
bro.
frontline
That
communities, it
was-
doesn't matter
I
what you
worked for
pay
8
them, it
years. That
matters
is
how
such
you
a lie.
keep them safe. What do you do?
Yours-
And you
ocean
impose
will be all
restrictions
over
on
your
the
ass.
pollutions that
Oh
the
my
pollutants
God.
coming out of those fence line
Fence line?
communities.
What the hell is he
Okay,
talking
I
about?
have one final
Would
question.
he close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil
got him
industry
to say
pollutes
it.
significally.
I see.
And here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas. Excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to the oil industry?
We actually do
All
give it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you
Why
remember
does he
that
pronounce
Texas?
industry
Will you
like
remember that Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context. But the point is, look, we have to move toward
The biggest
a
solar
net
ETF is
zero
trading
emissions.
down right now.
The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going
to
to get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our
rejoin
final
Paris
question.
Accord and
He
make
can't
China
help himself.
abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
question
is
is
about
written, though.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump.
not
Imagine
over
this
yet,
is your
Ricky. Give her some
inauguration
time.
day.
To mess up?
What
Yeah.
will you say
Give her
in
some
your
time.
address to Americans
You
who
don't.
did
I'm
not
giving you time to
vote for
back
you?
out.
Let's
You'll
hear it.
each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities, enormous opportunities to make things better.
He knew this.
We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. At the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust
First of all, phenomenal job to the moderator, man. Honestly, great job. If you're on Twitter, man, I'm sending her a shout out. I thought she.
Important job because we got to at least.
Dude, this lady.
Tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't
Look
forget
at the
to vote.
next main anchor at
Thank you,
NBC
everyone,
right there.
and
She's
have
going to
a
take over
great
for
night.
Lester Holt. Her stock went up.
Yep.
Because you can't watch
Good
that.
for her.
She never got hot under the collar.
Good for her.
Told you she was good.
Folks,
Ricky.
if you're watching, let me just ask the people if you're watching. If you're watching, first of all, just for algorithm purposes, press the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and the notification button. But comment below, who do you think won the debate between the two, and which parts were the ones that stuck out to you? I'm asking them the question. I'm asking us the question. Danielle, why don't you go first?
I do think that the one area where Biden shined the brightest, and I'm looking at the front page of the Wall Street Journal for tomorrow morning right now. I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal's website, is healthcare.
No question about it.
And that was where he was, I mean, okay, he's been gone for 5 days, right? So he had plenty of time to rehearse the answers, but that was where he actually came up with a cohesive plan. And again, in the 60 Minutes interview, and again tonight on stage, Trump does not have a plan. And in the middle of a pandemic, you should be able to say to people, if they're insecure about healthcare, that you have a solid plan that's been well thought out, that's not going to bankrupt the country. And that is, I mean, that is typically what Republicans do, right? They come up with more efficient ways to run business. That's their MO. So I think in that sense, he did a very good job. Biden, other than that, I don't think we learned much about his platform. I don't think we learned much about the substance of where he thinks policies are going. I mean, we'll make them pay. I'm sorry, but China hasn't paid for generations. And how you can say that you're going to create millions and millions of jobs without being a little bit more specific and slowly put the oil industry out of business? No. At least not from where I'm sitting in Texas.
Football score. You're a football person. Football score.
I would say that was a low-scoring, high-defense game. It's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 21-14.
Trump.
I have to say Trump stood his ground.
Okay, Adam.
I agree. Number one, I kept a tail of tape, little scorecard here. Biden definitely won on health care. Trump definitely won on the crime bill. I will say, Trump acted for a change somewhat presidential. He wasn't as childish as usual. I think the fact that he wasn't allowed to speak over his 2 minutes helped him, because you know that he was itching to get out there.
He only went into overtime for like 2 seconds once.
A couple times he got cut off, but not a lot. It helped him, because the first time he kept overgoing, it was not a good look.
Yeah.
He did try to throw in some jokes in there. He had a funny line about. He had a couple funny lines toward the end where the crowd got a little wild.
We're the crowd.
Well, obviously the crowd.
It's all virtual here.
But there was a couple good lines that he got. I'm giving this 17-14 Trump.
Okay. Tom?
Let me just start by saying I'm really scared for America. I don't think we truly understand how important this election is and what is going on here. There's a fundamental difference in just values or philosophies. Joe Biden preys on fear, and he wants to show you every single way the government can take care of you, led by him. Everything is twisted that way, and then he looks at the camera every now and then and does his little rehearsed monologue where he thinks he's speaking to middle America. Intelligent people can see through that. There is such a hatred for Trump that there's a vacuum when you watch this. People are more concerned about his rudeness to a moderator than what's going on in this country. The word Antifa wasn't mentioned tonight. They spent more time on the environment than Antifa, which is going on, is a big deal in major cities. And if Joe Biden wins the election, it's going to continue to be a big deal. So I'll give it a score of 38-3. If you could get past your irrational hatred for Donald Trump, if you can get past that, if you just looked at this objectively and listened to the points of where this country's going and who's going to take it there, he dominated this debate.
It's interesting you use objectively. Interesting, 38-3.
But you need to come back at me with something substantive.
I'm saying that Trump won the debate. I see the difference between you and I, my friend, is that I have the ability to call bullshit on both sides. You can only call bullshit on Biden's side.
Because I'm seeing this at a higher level.
Right.
I am.
Right.
He's 78 years old.
And Biden doesn't want to win the debate. That's what you
with
think.
him mentioning the word integrity, I mean, I thought that was bad choice on him tonight because the FBI is going to own that computer tomorrow.
When you can call bullshit on both sides, you'll have a lot of credibility, I promise you.
But you know what? These are also the same people that are saying Trump is racist. Is he? I mean, is there real true evidence that he is? I don't think there is. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Well, then tell me what it is. Tell me the racist
We don't
act
have
he's
enough
done.
time to go down Trump's racist rhetoric and dog whistles. We don't have time for that. But Ricky, go ahead, sir. 38-3, you agree or no?
Look, one thing I will give him, he was a lot more clear this time. As far as Biden was concerned, he was more clear on things. And if you were voting for him, if you're his supporter, today may have a little bit more solidified it because he didn't sound incoherent. He was engaged. He was quick on his toes, right? So from that point, I can see why you would want to support him if you're already his supporter. Obviously, I'm not, right? For many reasons, stepping back to 1993 and 1994. But as far as that's concerned, like Danielle said, as far as his plan, his health care plan, he was very accurate as far as that's concerned. But one thing I didn't like is that everything he started was always accusing the president of something. And if you have to start from a defensive standpoint instead of just trying to try to prove your point, and you're taking 30 seconds always, but he, and then sitting there and saying, I'm going to do this for the Hispanic community. Obviously, is a big part for me. They said we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and Trump made a very, 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 very good point when he asked the question, why did you do it in 8 years? He kept saying that. You had 8 years to do it. So you cannot forget that no matter how good Biden sounded today and how coherent he finally was, it's the fact that he was the last vice president. And that was only 3.25 years ago. It wasn't something that happened 10 years ago.
Actually, Biden answered him because they didn't have Congress. And that's exactly why the Republicans today have a Supreme Court justice, and they will have a Supreme Court justice because they do have the Senate.
Okay,
Obamacare was a one and done. In 8 years, Obama came in and passed one major piece of legislation, and then it may as well have been a lame duck presidency for the next 7 years.
Okay, fair enough. But every American blames Trump for everything as if he had the power to do everything. And we're not doing the same thing to Biden. So, I didn't have the Congress.
The polls are very close in a lot of places. I don't know why there's this perception that Trump is hated. If you look,
no. I'm saying
if you look at Florida, if you look at these swing states, critical swing states,
yeah,
then the polls are still running neck and neck.
I agree with you, but what I'm getting at is as far as accountability is concerned, right? If the TV would have turned off, it's Trump's fault. But when it's Biden, it's because he didn't have this or because he didn't have that. It's always. Am I wrong when I say that? There's always an excuse. When it comes down to accountability, it's always boom. It's deflected. But it's Trump, everything. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. As he had if he was some dictator that could completely control everything that's going on. But if I had to score between both of them, I just don't like Biden. He engaged my people. He engaged my people, and he deported 4 million of them. And then I grew up around Crips and Bloods, and I went to school with Crips and Bloods and non-violent. And then he says, what really got to me when he lies is, we released 38,000 federal prisoners. Look, I have family in federal prison, okay? Here's the reality behind things. Unless you're moving big weight, you're not going to even touch a federal case. So the people that he incarcerated were not federal cases. There was a guy that had a 20 sack of weed or heroin or cocaine in his pocket, shouldn't have had it. Those are the guys that he locked up for a long time, not federal cases. So try to deflect the fact that you locked up by the masses. These, and then, federally we released them. You go to, when you go to a federal prison, you're going with lawyers, doctors, you're going with government officials that did something corrupt, and very high weight drug dealers. You're not going with the guy that had a 20 seconds buck. Right, a pound won't get you to federal prison. So I just,
and that has led to the downfall of many minority families in America.
Which, absolutely. I mean, so he does and LBJ, what he did, LBJ was incentivizing father absence, and then this guy coming in and locking a lot of them up. I'm just, I'm gonna go, I don't know, I'm gonna go maybe 25-8 on this or whatever. You feel maybe one field goal or whatever, with me. I don't.
25-8.
I think you're thinking about the other football.
Yeah, I guess whatever football.
Just the extra point and the safety.
The thing is, I don't even care.
Has there ever been a football game that ended with a team scoring 25 points?
Well, because I'm so off on I'm a big football.
That's the beauty of the internet. You can find it.
I have the right.
Pat, I know you've been doing your diligence over there. You've been keeping score. I know you've been keeping.
First of all, what I love about the current group that we have is your center right, your center left, you're where you are. I'm center right, say middle to center right is where I'm at. I think this is great because the audience that's watching us, you want to see this. It's not everybody on one side or everybody on the other side. You call out Trump 1 minute, next minute you're calling out Biden. Adam will only call out Trump, but for the most part,
Then I said Trump to win the debate.
But here's the thing. So here's what I got. Here's what I got. Let me tell you what happened here.
Because I can call bullshit.
This is a couple things I got. One, lines that were very good. Trump, we can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe has. Okay.
I'm sorry.
We can't lock ourselves up in the basement like Joe has. Okay, that was the moment he said that. That's hilarious.
He's been using that.
It's not my fault that the virus came here. It's also not Biden's fault.
Yes, that was powerful.
Phenomenal because we've not seen one.
That was a moment of grace.
No question about it. We've not seen one moment where it's been kind of like
humility.
I loved seeing that. I thought it was great that he said that, and it probably brought some side where people said, well, maybe he's got that kind of a side to him that we don't know about. Then there was another one that said they paid you a lot of money, and they probably still are. Trump said that I guarantee you if I spend $1 million on you, I would find out a ton on you if I spend $1 million on you. Look how much they spent $35 million on me, and they found nothing on me with Russia. If I spend $1 million on you, I'll find out a lot. I think that's a very powerful one. The other one is when Biden said he thinks he's running against another guy. This is Joe Biden. I'm here because I beat all those other guys. I love that line. The fact that he said that, I think that's a very powerful line.
You confuse me
for
with
Biden.
Bernie.
You confuse me with Bernie, meaning that's what he's saying.
That was his.
I think that was phenomenal.
It wasn't
exactly.
canned. It wasn't canned.
I agree with you. And then the one with me on Trump that got me, like, you know how you feel statement and feeling. When Joe said that, I felt it. I'm gonna tell you which one it was with Trump.
Let me
tell you what it was because I want to say it. Let me explain to you why. I started a business because of a guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
You say 2 words to me, I said I'm gonna start a business and I'm gonna whoop your ass just because of your words. When he said I ran because of you, oh my gosh, I ran because of you, Joe, because of what you did. I had a great life. But I ran because of you? Are you kidding me? That's a lot of weight behind that statement. And then he says, then when they brought, I think this one's going to get him in trouble when Biden says, it's also the laptop is another Russia. And then Trump says, wait a minute, the laptop's another Russia? Really? This is a new one. The laptop's another Russia? He's going to run with that one. And then the whole thing with why couldn't you get it done if you had all these years? But the conversation, Trump got what he wanted to get out of it. Trump said, here's the one thing that Biden can't control himself with. Biden doesn't have to answer 3 things. He answered it. He should have never answered it. It was over, it moved on. Okay? Like when he says, tell me what you're going to do with oil. But tell me what you're going to do with oil. You're going to do this? This is a big thing. By the way, just so everybody knows, Texas, Pennsylvania, pay very close attention. I hope you caught what he said. Here's what he's going to do. Because he needs Texas. He needs Pennsylvania. That was a big point that he had there. And Trump's going to know how to run with that. I think to me, Trump schooled him, if you ask me. I mean, obviously, the score isn't like a shellacking. It's a 28-14 score that I got. He beat him by 2 touchdowns. But I think Trump did You know when you're debating somebody, like there wasn't a moment where Biden pulled him in, and then he got him to say what he wanted him to say. I don't know if that makes sense. Biden never did that, but he pulled him in, and Pence did it as well in this debate. If you remember that, Pence did the same thing as well. So are you going to pack the courts? Also, is it fair to say he still has that? Are you going to pack the courts? Let me talk about packing the court. How about we talk about that? Out of all the judges that you have, not one of them is African American, which is not true. But Pence needed that, and he got it. I don't think Biden didn't play any flea flickers. I think Trump did, and he got him. 28-14, Trump wins this one. So.
Well, we'll know within like 48 hours because it's just like the last debate. We'll be able to see who raises money and see who raises money fast.
Yeah, but there's more to the story of what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, people might not be talking about the debate as much. Yeah,
no, because that was like a regular debate.
Part of the thing that Biden taking the week off didn't help him. I really don't. I think you can try to rehearse or get yourself prepared for a debate. You got to be able to think on your feet. And I think with Trump talking to the media every single day, doing these rallies, he's used to responding quickly, which is what you have to do, and you got to capture the moment. And Trump was able to do that. Plus, he showed that he's coachable, that he can reel himself in. If he had been off the grid tonight, he wouldn't have helped himself at all. But at least he reined it in, and he came across as much more presidential. And I think
at one point, I thought he was going to turn purple, but yes.
There's no doubt in my mind that Trump won this debate. And this is someone who is not a fan of Trump, and I'm able to call both sides like I see it. There's no doubt that he won this debate. But like we're using sports analogies, we're using football analogies. All Biden has to do was not turn over the football. He's looking to run out the clock. He's ahead in a lot of the swing states, which Pat, as always, says is a bad way to think about it. But Biden wasn't taking any crazy shots.
But that's if
he wasn't trying to get into crazy arguments.
You can't win like that against a guy like this. Listen,
again, I think Trump won, but Biden wasn't trying to get too crazy tonight.
So think about it this way, okay? I'm with Bill O'Reilly. We're on a flight together, okay? So happens we're going to Vegas because I'm going to watch him when he was doing the whole thing with him and Dennis. Remember when him and Stewart were doing things?
They did that
really cool. I love it. It's
acting.
freaking phenomenal, man, when those guys were doing
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart thing, but he was doing this one in Vegas with Miller. So I went to watch him and Miller, and I wanted to watch him and Stewart. Phenomenal. Whenever you get these types of things happen, you got to go to it. And I said, so what happened with Romney and Obama? He says, I got to tell you. He says, I called both of them. And I said, President Obama, I was telling him, like, he's got to get on. He's got to do one last interview because Romney's got this one. Romney's got this one. Romney's got this one. He says, President Obama's campaign manager told me one thing. When we were on the phone, he says, Bill, this is where you're wrong. Obama's already won this. And Bill says, what do you mean? He says, Romney had a chance to beat Obama. He made one big mistake. What's that? His campaign manager told him that you don't have the single woman vote. Don't go too strong against Obama on Benghazi. Don't do it. Women don't like it. What does Romney do? Never brings up Benghazi on the last debate. What was Romney's best debate? Not the last one. It was the one prior to that. What ends up happening? Romney needs it. Romney thinks he's got it. But Obama didn't need it, and he was right. Obama won it, right? Because he had momentum. And don't forget what Sandy Hook did to Obama. Sandy Hook, Chris Christie, that whole, all that stuff that was taking place.
You mean Hurricane Sandy?
Hurricane Sandy. I'm sorry, not Sandy Hook. My apologies. Hurricane Sandy. So don't forget that timing on what happened there, right? Okay.
When Christie came out and greeted him, gave him a hug.
For you to think like, oh, we got it. Oh, brother, Andy Grove said only the paranoid survive. And I'm telling you right now, Democrats are not paranoid. Trump looks paranoid, so he's going next camp, next one. Reagan was running years ago, and he thought he had, it's like, oh, America loves me. There's no way the other guy's going to win. Finally, Bush comes up and says, listen, you got to go out there campaigning. And he was older. You got to go out there campaigning. You don't have this one locked in. The other one's getting momentum. Then he went in. Trump is the most paranoid candidate we've ever had. I don't think there's been a president more paranoid than him, and in times like this,
so it's a businessman and a competitor.
In the calculus you're describing, if Biden is to come up short by just a little bit, then his campaign can look back on these 5 missed days.
But you know what? I don't think it's going to be, someone's going to win big because someone's going to dominate these swing states, and it's going to tip it. And I don't see it being close.
What do you mean by dominate the swing states?
I think if someone wins one of these swing states, they're going to win them all. I think maybe we don't know who it is. We don't know what the polling is, but whoever wins, I don't think the election will be close.
This feels like it's a lot. This feels like Gore Bush. This feels like Florida's really important right now. It really does.
I'm not saying Florida isn't important, but I'm saying I'm lumping a lot of these swing states together. If whatever tipped Florida is going to tip Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. And I think that there's going to be a bigger margin of victory for whoever ends up winning this.
Biden's camp's too cocky to me. You can't win like that. You can't go in a fight being too cocky. How many times have you seen a champion go into a boxing match and, or somebody goes in being too cocky and what happens to them? Oh, there's no way in the world, this person, Buster Douglas beating me on Mike Tyson. Boom. What the hell just happened? And then from there, this is what they're going in Democrats. See, Obama wasn't like this. If you think about Obama wasn't like this. Obama, if you ever watch Obama's debates, it's unbelievable. Because Obama knew how to do, like that one thing Trump did today, I've never seen him do before. I've never seen him do that before where he says, this is not my fault. Neither is it Joe's fault. This is China's fault. So
you can't respond to it.
By the way, that's Obama's strength. Yeah. That is Obama's strength. Obama, when he gave his DNC talk, he says, this is not about red, this is not about blue, this is not about purple. Military matters, this matters, LGBTQ, Christians matter, church community, so the way he was able to bring them together, and Obama was paranoid when he was campaigning. Hillary was not paranoid. Hillary was, I am Hillary. Do you realize who I am? I'm guaranteed locked in to be a president. And these campaign people behind closed doors have convinced him that he's locked in, and he's not. He's not locked in.
I don't think that's necessarily what's driving his campaign.
What do you think is driving his campaign?
Well, I think there's a different kind of paranoia driving his campaign. I think they don't want him to mess up.
Yeah, but you can't win like that.
I'm just saying. I don't think it's bravado. I think there's a fear factor.
Such a terrible strategy because you can't win like that.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens these next few days. I mean, look, if all five of us agree that Trump won this debate, then it's time for the Biden campaign to get hopping.
I heard a theory not too long ago. I want to get you guys' input on it because I really don't know what to think about it. Sounds interesting. That Biden's 78 years old, right? By the time he leave office, he'd be 82, right? Making him one of the oldest presidents we've ever had.
The oldest,
if not the oldest.
The oldest, yeah.
Yeah,
well, the oldest, because Trump was the oldest when he got elected at 70.
Right.
Biden will be 77, but turns 78.
He turns
in a few months. At the end of the month.
Okay. So here's somebody said something that was very interesting. They said Kamala Harris would be vice president. What they'll do is that they'll input the 25th, right? Make it to where Biden is no longer fit to be president, and Kamala will kick in as president.
Oh, that's a done deal.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
I've never heard that. It's the first time I heard it.
Oh, I believe it.
What do you guys think?
Because that's why Pelosi brought it up.
But I think that is the most powerful message that the GOP can deliver right now is just what you described.
As far as for the people that don't understand, don't understand that language.
The fear factor that the Republican Party is using right now against Biden is you're not voting for him, you're voting for her.
Right.
And that's why Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase, large benefactors who are fairly centrist, who are for Biden, have said, oh no, it's going to be all about his cabinet. It's going to be all about the people he puts around him, which, in Reagan's second term, that was what it was. I mean, Reagan had to have his people around him because towards the end of his second term, he was senile. So, but that's where the Democratic Party wants to lean the narrative is no, he's going to surround himself by other centrists like him. It's not going to be AOC. It's not going to be Kamala. But the Republicans need to continue to push this because the thing that...
Do you believe it? That's my question. Do you believe it?
I don't know.
Does it
do you know why I don't know? Because when rumors hit Twitter this afternoon that Bernie Sanders might be his labor secretary, that's not exactly what Jamie Dimon was talking about, with trying to name people who would be considered to be and perceived to be centrist. I'm sorry, but Bernie does not fit that bill.
No.
It's funny because wasn't the FBI like a huge part of the story in 2016, right near the very, very end?
Well, the FBI is a pretty big piece of it right now.
A huge story starting tomorrow.
I got a question for Danielle. Danielle, these numbers right here. Kai, can the audience see this, or are we the only ones that can see this? If you can share this so the audience can see this, I want them to see it. So this is the tax plan comparing Biden's against Trump's, okay? Trump 21%, Biden 28%. This is the worst case it can be.
And it's the one on the bottom that Trump is focusing on and saying that the stock market's going to crash.
So out of the four you're looking at, income tax and payroll, it's going to go to 37. Biden's 52. Small business tax 29.6, 39.6. Capital gains 23.8, 43.4. Pull up the 50-cent thing that he did on New York Post. He said 62.6% in the state of New York. California, and then 60% in New York, and then 50 Cent comes out saying, I don't want to be known as 20 Cent under Biden's tax plan. He says, I don't care about Trump, I just don't want to pay the taxes. So when you look at these taxes, go back to the numbers, everybody can take a look at it. When you go back to these taxes, as a matter of fact, make that bigger, make us smaller. Make that bigger, make us smaller. What's going to hurt the economy the most out of these four?
Immediately, the capital gains tax.
Why is that?
Well, if there's a certain Biden victory in 2020, then people who are sitting on a ton of gains on in their stock holdings, they're going to take those gains off the table. They're going to take a much lower capital gains hit than they will if they wait until 2021. That's the biggest risk right now to the stock market.
Unpack that again. Okay, so if this is,
I'm going to pay a lower tax rate today, this year.
Yep.
Which means, we've only got a few weeks left of this year, effectively, versus taking the risk that they pass that capital gains tax hike quickly, such that I would lose, what, 20 percentage points of my gains?
Wow.
That's a lot.
So you're saying a lot of people are going to sell and get out of the stock market before the end of the year.
Is that investors are sitting on such huge gains.
But
also, you said if they pass this.
Before he's even inaugurated, you're going to get hammered.
Because they're not going to take a chance. No. Taxes aren't going to go up. If Biden wins, nothing happens in lame duck. Nada.
No, time out. You just said people are going to dump it within weeks. That's going to affect the stock market.
In 2020.
Right, yeah, in 2020. Right, because people aren't going to wait and see if it passes or not.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's not going to recover in 2021. It's not like it's going to come back up in 2021.
Well, it's the most overvalued it's been in the history of the country, so no, it's not.
Yeah.
So there are other economic factors like 23 million Americans collecting unemployment benefits that are dragging the economy down all by itself.
So that's number one. How does this affect? So, for example, I have the answer for myself, but I want to hear from you, somebody that's in this space. You write, billionaires subscribe to quote. If you've not, we put a link below to what she does in the comment section. If people want to know what she really does on how much. I'll call Danielle. We'll be talking to Pat. I'm writing all day today. Can we talk Thursday and we'll get on the phone? We'll talk the next. I know the days for us to talk is Thursday because she's working nonstop writing. But for me, I want you to kind of explain this from the standpoint of, I'm the small business owner. How does this affect me? I'm an average guy. I don't run a business. I make $55,000 a year. How does that affect me? I'm an independent contractor making $300,000 a year. How does this affect me? Give us updates.
Well, you're going to look if your take-home profits go back up to the prior peak rate. 39.6 is what it was prior to the Trump tax bill. If you know that, then you're going to be more reticent about expanding your workforce to the same extent. You're not going to make the same investment you might otherwise, because you're going to look at the profit picture and you're going to look at the math of profits differently, given what you know you can take home from that. So it's going to make you a potentially more conservative small business owner, which is the last thing we need at this juncture with so many small businesses that have already been lost.
So Danielle, a question for you. Because you said you were not sure who you're voting for.
I'm still not.
Is seeing something like this doesn't sway you to want to vote more towards Trump, and why not?
Well, then it comes down to an existential question, right? Then it comes down to why you would vote for one person over the other, whether or not you were doing something that was bigger for your country. And that is, I think, where the people who are undecided, why they're undecided. I was out to dinner with some friends a few nights ago, this lovely open air West Village, blah, blah, blah area here in Dallas. And he said, I've voted Republican my entire life, and I know that I'm going to be paying higher taxes, and yet I think it's the right thing to do to vote against Trump. And so I think that is where some people have their thinking, because they view Trump as being a divisive president rather than being a uniting president. Again,
is he divisive? Oh, okay, so here's a question, because this is
he was asked about the governor of Michigan, and he said, you know, they're chanting "lock her up," and he's like, "No, lock them all up." So I mean, you have to be more like tonight. You have to be more like that Trump, more presidential.
Yes, more tactful. So
would you please repeat that and unpack that, because I was picking up a spill. You said the guy was lifelong Republican.
Lifelong Republican. He'd always voted for the Republican Party his entire life. He knew that it was going to cost him money in higher taxes because of the type of company that he has. So he knew, he's in real estate, but he knew that he was going to be paying higher taxes
we talked about that earlier.
under Biden, but yet he felt that it was the right thing to do for the country.
I cannot wrap my arms around that thought. Yeah, that is unbelievable that he would say that.
But again,
and then you couple coronavirus, right? So if Biden is shutting down the country,
we have riots in our streets, and we have a lot of people who connect very quick dots to it,
Tom,
to the fires in the streets.
Of the Lincoln Project. You've heard of this? Lincoln Project is basically all former all Republicans.
They're former Republican campaign advisors.
Former campaign advisors, national security, staunch GOP. They've come out, there's hundreds of them, how many? Who have all come out and said, I can't support this person. I had a conversation with a person on the DNC. He's a major fundraiser, and he makes a lot of money. And I was like, dude, you make a lot of money. Tell me how you justify voting Democrat when you know that it's going to increase your taxes. He said, kind of like Danielle said, it's bigger than my money.
It's bigger than me.
It's bigger than me.
And that is...
And I'm calling him out. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What's the bigger?
This is what I want to know.
It's bigger. I don't know what you're talking about. Explain it to me. What's the bigger? What am I missing?
assume they want to care about the country benefiting overall.
Higher taxes. Collusion with China, obviously. Selling us out to China. Having your son...
What's selling us out to China?
I think it's simpler than that. I think it's what's on the evening news.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So it's not bigger. People just assume it's bigger.
Well, it is. Look,
it's not bigger.
But wait, where she went.
Wait.
She went.
Why have gun sales in America tripled since the coronavirus hit?
I know our household has more because we are scared of the narrative the Democrats keep pushing.
But I speak to my friends on the East Coast, in New York City. These are die-hard liberals, and they're gunning up, and I'm like, good God, you're going to shoot your foot off. I mean, I get it here in Texas, but the whole country is getting armed up.
I've been in Beverly Hills. I've seen the riots. I've seen the stuff going on. I mean, the reason people are buying, I've never owned a gun in my life, ever. I'm going to get a gun. I am going to get a gun. I live in LA. I mean, and it's not it's the stuff I see and what's going on for real. The stuff they didn't even talk about on the debate tonight.
But it's very, very important what she said, because we were having a conversation today, and he says, Pat, if the taxes, Adam's asking me when I landed back I was at Jekyll Island last 4 days. I had a whole meeting there. Anyways, he said, Pat, how about all these tax stuff? You know, if that's the case, why are all these Silicon Valley people voting for the left? Okay, why are all these and then we addressed that.
Why is Wall Street?
Why is Wall Street voting for the left? And so
Wall Street has been.
We don't know that they are. We don't know exactly how they vote.
But he's asking a question. Yeah. But you said something. You said something right now, and then you said, and he says, well, how about this? How about collusion? How about raising taxes? How about your son this? And he went off, right? And you said, I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's as simple as what's being said on the news.
No, not what's being said. You can have it on mute with what you're seeing on the news, with the fires in the streets. I think that says more than anything else. It's like, it's pictures.
That's manipulation.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not bigger. It's not bigger.
It's not necessarily the truth. That's manipulation.
Or on my Twitter feed or wherever.
Yeah, but...
Because I don't really watch. I don't watch that. I don't watch the evening news. I haven't watched the network news ever.
My issue, Danielle, is this: Adam said he talked to his buddy at the DNC, and he says it's bigger. What's bigger? The lies? So you've got to go and put somebody that's going to make everybody happy, so that you stop the riots. That's not bigger. That's you saying I'm scared. I don't know how to defend my country, and I'm just going to sit here and cry about it, and I'm just going to put somebody that's going to give us peace, but it's literally going to ruin the country. So it's not bigger.
That's if there's a blue sweep.
If it's
only if it's a blue sweep. If it's not a blue sweep, then the legislation doesn't get passed.
I'm going to make this super freaking simple. Beyond simple, okay? Why are half the country for Trump, and why is half the country against Trump?
Naiveness.
Super simple. It's not naivete.
I'm
letting you know, if you're willing to listen. Half the country loves Trump because he's an asshole. Because he shakes things up.
No.
Because he'll call bullshit. Because he'll call out China. And the other half of the country hates him because he's an asshole. It's just that simple.
No.
It is, Tom.
No, it isn't.
So why is the country 50-50, Tom? Because in your world, everyone, we should all love Trump. He won 38-3. Oh my God, he's the best thing ever. But tell me why 50-50.
Because I think there's some people that look at stuff like this, that look at stuff is happening in the country. You guys, you want to vote for Trump. You just won't let yourself.
No, I don't.
All the data, all the criteria lines up for you to vote. You like money. You like making money. You like keeping your money. You like safety. You like going out. If Biden is the president, say goodbye to your nightclubs. Say goodbye to your bars.
I partied like a fucking rock star under Obama. So what? So all of a sudden it's gonna.
Was coronavirus here when Obama was
so
here?
It's not gonna happen.
Are you equating Biden to Obama? I mean,
it's Obama light. There it is.
No. Coronavirus plus Biden means no fun. This country's done. Shut down. It's over.
So what happens to our country?
It's going to be a slow fall off a cliff.
So where are you moving?
I haven't decided yet.
But you're moving somewhere.
And that coupled with Newsom, man, I'm out.
So you're out of America. I encourage you to stay in America.
The only reason California is not falling into the Pacific Ocean is because so many people are leaving, so it's releasing the weight off of the actual landmass.
I was talking to somebody today, and I said, and which is true, okay? Which this is a fact. I said, listen, Trump lowered his unemployment for Hispanics and blacks, lowest in history. But it's only by a certain percentage. Also, now you're going to marginalize wins. So 44 other presidents have never done it, but this man did. Oh, but it's only by a little bit. So people's reasoning for voting for Biden, when you literally sit there and look at the policies, look at his history, look at what he's done, when you look at it, and you realize that Trump is beating his ass in pretty much every other president outside of Ronald Reagan, in the past 44 presidents, you have to start to rationalize why you're voting for a certain person. Because if you look at the policies and then you look at the reality and you look at everything overall, Trump is the best choice over Biden. And here you
depends on the policy, though. Depends on what the
majority of the
if you're a Gen Zer and your number one priority is climate change, and you have a candidate who basically thinks it's a hoax.
Which policy with Trump do you like the least?
Which policy do I like with Trump? Let me get out my list.
Which one do you like the least?
Look, here's one that with Biden that
you would have thought about it right off the bat. I can tell you Biden.
I can tell you right now, I don't like for the president to make the military in this country feel compromised, and that is why Mattis came out publicly.
And said what?
See, I disagree. You think he's making the military? You don't think he has full support of the military? I do. I think the negativity
There's
is
so many generals who
created.
will come out there saying, General Stanley McChrystal, a major Army veteran, just came out and said, there's no way I can vote for this person.
Well, McChrystal
He's
is a
dishonest.
diehard Obama guy. McChrystal is an Obama guy. McChrystal's a lifelong
The gentleman
Democrat.
we just had, General Mattis, came out and said...
story. No,
Mattis is not.
General Kelly.
I agree. I didn't
General
say
John
that, but
Kelly, his
McChrystal-
chief of staff, just came out 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago and said, this is the worst person I've ever been around.
There was some more personal things between those two. It wasn't a black and white
No,
situation.
Mattis was interviewed right before the coronavirus and said, as long as he's a sitting president, I will not say one negative word about Trump. You cannot ask me again.
He said that to us when we interviewed him as well.
Because maybe Trump disrespected him behind closed doors. That's never happened to him.
It wasn't that. He said in his op-ed exactly why he'd come out against Trump.
First of all, Danielle, that's a complete different conversation to me. Complete different conversation. Mattis married the military.
True.
Mattis was in love with a girl, and he decided to say, I'm never going to get married because my wife is the military. Mattis has got a show on HBO, it's 3 episodes, 4 episodes, where you watch this episode, by the time you're done with, you're thinking this is like General Patton, Napoleon, and all these guys combined in one human being, and you just enjoy watching this
and
guy,
God
right?
bless America.
I'm all for Mattis. I'm Team Mattis. I'm 100% Team Mattis.
100%.
But sometimes when you got these two bad mofo alpha guys, there is no way Mattis can report to anybody.
I'm sorry, but
type of guy.
did either, I mean, add it up. Is it 7 or 8 deferments between the two candidates?
What do you mean?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't
Military
hold it against
deferments to
them.
not serve the country. You added up between those two guys. Who was willing to die for America? Neither of them. Neither of them.
So you're more confident that Biden's going to do more for military than Trump?
No, I did not say that. You said what bothers you the most.
Okay, that's fair.
That has nothing to do with how I feel about Biden and our military.
About policy?
What policy of Biden do you love the most, and what policy of Trump do you hate?
That's an easy answer. It's the headline on the newspaper right now. Healthcare.
Healthcare is your number one.
Trump has been saying...
For the last 3 months I've talked to you, you've never brought up healthcare.
Now we talked about it tonight. It was the number one issue.
Your number one reason why you're not going to do Trump is healthcare. You've never brought it up before. It just happened now?
Wasn't it not a big factor
Wait,
tonight?
it just happened now? It just happened now. So the point he's making, he's right with you. I fully understand what you're saying, Danielle. I agree with you. Because where you're coming from, I'm a Mattis guy. I'm the guy that says, you got to listen to him, Mattis. Here's a guy that, what are you doing not listening to a guy like Mattis? Are you kidding me? Everybody in the military respect. I'm an Army guy. He's a Marine guy. I salute the guy. When we spoke the first time, I said, we brought him to the company to speak, and we had a Marine interview him, and he's not a Trump guy. So we're very comfortable doing something like that. But the question he asked is, if somebody who's in the middle, you said what it looks like on TV, I do agree, which a big part of voting is what people are seeing on TV. And I sometimes wonder, and I said...
Or social media, whatever.
If we took out right now social media, okay?
Gosh.
It is 1964, first debate. That was Nixon-Kennedy, okay, on TV. You know which one I'm talking about. I don't know what the year is.
The Sweat.
The Sweat, right?
The Sweat.
If we have no TV, if we have the first TV we have, but not as crazy, like, the way the media is manipulating today, it was more Walter Cronkite style, more people were... If we don't have that, these two faced off with each other, and the principles they're both selling based on what America was founded on, there is no all the other stuff that we have going on. Who would be crushing the other one based on the policies that they have? It wouldn't even be close.
Based on the first debate, it would definitely be close. Based on tonight's debate, it would have been Trump.
Yeah, it's not even close. And I'm not even talking about personalities. I'm purely talking policies. Trump's personality... There's a book I read called Barbarians to Bureaucrats. Mm-hmm. He says in every great company and society and organization, there's what? There's a dreamer.
Yeah.
There's a
prophet.
There's a.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What's the quote? There's a no. He says there's a dreamer. There's a engineer, and there's a son of a bitch. Right?
Yes.
You have to have a son of a bitch. You gotta have it.
No.
And that guy is an absolute qualified son of a bitch. And people like that sometimes.
But the president doesn't have to be the son of the bitch,
I actually don't mind it. I don't mind it. Listen, I do not mind it.
Especially when you're dealing with tough issues, man.
You know, a guy who was a Democrat, I was watching his video today. He gave a message, 1.2 million views in like 2 days. And he says, I'm not a Trump guy. He says, you guys got to realize, I didn't vote for Trump when the first time around. He says, but I got to tell you, he says, in any other season, Trump would be a terrible president, a terrible candidate, a terrible person to run America. He says, but for today, he is the perfect person for America today.
A sitting Democrat?
Yeah, you should have.
Why was it perfect for today?
He said, because today there are so many people that are trying to leech and take stuff from America because America's been able to give up side deals to China for decades and decades and decades. And America's the one that's allowed China to go from a top 20 to a top 10 to a top 5 to now competing number 2, fighting for first place. He says the only person that can go against somebody like that is only a guy like that. Nobody else can pull it off.
Right, and he's the only guy that China's afraid of.
So I don't know if he's right or not, but that part of it for me.
And what makes us weaker than not standing up to China that Trump has done? Signing in socialism light, being in agreement, going on national television yesterday morning and saying that Nancy's bill wasn't big enough. I'm sorry, but I
don't disagree with you there. We're on the same page there.
But again, if he continues to run up our national debt to the extent that he is, that makes us that makes us more vulnerable than any rhetorical war with China. He needs to focus on our national debt and on semiconductors, not soybeans. He needs to understand that the Chinese have already moved on to the next stage.
He can't do it though. He can't do that. Danielle, he can't do
that. The leader of our country has to do that.
You and I are not going to agree with them. You and I are not going to agree with them. Here's how the situation works. Here's how this thing works. Okay? First, let's create a massive crisis. What's a massive crisis? Let's shut down every state. Let's shut them down. Okay? Let's force Trump to do a lot of cases. Shit, okay, we'll do a lot of cases. Let's get everybody tested. Then Trump does testing. We have 1 million cases. Well, you just told me to do cases. I listened to you. 1 million cases. Yeah, cases, but it's not 3-5% people dying. It's 1%. And even if you go deeper, it's 0.1% because the people that are not getting it, it's not the 3 to 5% you were saying. Yeah, but
are the same puppet masters controlling the entire world?
But here's what happened. So he doesn't have control to get all these governors that are shutting down their states. He can't go and say you can't do that. They're shutting down their states. They're begging for something to happen. Then their purpose is strategy. Think about it. Let me go to the strategy and tell me I'm wrong. Here's what he's not going to do. What's he not going to do? We're going to say, these people are struggling. How dare you not pass a stimulus? He's not going to say yes to it. Because remember what he said under Obama. Then they come up with a stimulus. He said yes. Then they're like, oh, shit. Everybody starts making money. Everybody's happy again. The economy is okay. It's doing a little bit better. 10.4 million jobs back, 11 million jobs back. Say it again. He won't do it a second time. He did it again. So he played their game against them. He played their game against them.
And has he created any jobs with all of the money that our country has spent? Are we repairing our bridges? Are we repairing our tunnels?
Unfortunately, he did not have an alternative. My opinion. Unfortunately, Danielle, in a situation like that, I am so with you on the stimulus. I'm the guy that was I sat in the meeting with David Herzog, the CFO of AIG, with Bob Ben Moshe, one of the greatest presidents in the history of business that saved AIG. He took $183 billion from the government and gave it back with $21 billion, and then he died 3 years later from cancer. He was on steroids the entire time. Till today, GM never paid it back. I'm all about some of these big guys going out of business. I fully get it. If you're not responsible with the money, that should happen.
That's called capitalism.
I fully am with it. I'm on the same page with you.
And yet he's barking like a seal at what the Federal Reserve is doing and printing money and keeping all the biggest companies in business.
You cannot, if he doesn't do it, say he doesn't do it. Okay, let's just say he doesn't do it. Let's go there. Actually go there for a second. Let's say he can't control the shutdown. Media and the governors are saying we're going to shut down. Let's say he doesn't do stimulus. You take me there. He doesn't do stimulus.
What did he just say up on the stage? Yeah. He just said to Biden, sometimes you got to talk him into it, right? Yeah. McConnell's people can push through the extension of the PPP. Why can't he talk his GOP? Sometimes you got to talk him into it, into extending what the small business relief program that the money's sitting there.
He doesn't have Congress. He doesn't have Congress, Danielle.
But he just said he did. He said sometimes you have to talk him into it.
What I'm saying to you is, actually, let's go there. Please go with me, okay? It is May. Do you remember May? He's not going to do stimulus, not going to do stimulus. And I'm sitting around right here, okay? And when I walk my dogs, Danielle, when I walk my dogs, I never carry a gun. Right before the stimulus happened, and the economy was in shambles, and people were firing people left and right, and it was very ugly. Remember, there was a moment in May, it was very scary. I walk my dogs with a gun in my hand. When I'm walking around, I walked in with my hand.
I hear what you're saying.
I had my gun right then. When I was sleeping, I was ready. If somebody comes to my house, I'm ready. The reason why
the country's more ready now.
If we didn't do the stimulus, forget about the riots and protesting. America would have been in shambles. We would have had civil war taking place.
And what's our national debt going to be if we continue every 6 months to put a $3 trillion Band-Aid on this and don't create jobs?
If you corner me as a leader, and you have control over the media, I don't. If you tell everybody everyone's dying, I can't control that.
He has more control over the media through his Twitter channel.
Zero control. He has control over his own social media account, and that's
what can he tell to Cuomo?
There's Newsmax, there's Fox, there's the other one that O'Reilly's on.
Here's a guy that's from California.
They average about 200 viewers.
Here's a guy from California. Here's a guy that's living in California. My plan was to go back to California. I told everybody, what did I say? I'm going right afterwards. I said, I'm going to California. We're going to build the headquarters of Valuetainment in California or Greenwich. These are two places we're looking at. We're going to go to New York. The moment I saw how Newsom handled California, I said, there's no way I'm going to California. Trump cannot do nothing to Newsom. Even Trump cannot say, open Disneyland with some real comprehensive way to make it safe for everybody. Test them, do anything.
I make no excuses for Newsom because he already has the Florida blueprint that shows how they can reopen Disney.
So what does he do?
He had that proof in hand and still keeps people out of jobs.
Political.
I think they fully played a card. And one thing that I said, and I sit there and I'm like, saying, why is this guy doing a stimulus? Every time I went back to him doing a stimulus, if he doesn't do the stimulus, we're sitting right here, windows, all this stuff. If he didn't do the stimulus, you would have seen the craziest things happen the next 60 days. You can't tell me as an American human being, you cannot go to work and I'm not sending you money. it would have been civil war at the highest. You would have seen the darkest things we haven't seen for a while.
I have to ask you a question then. If Trump loses during his lame duck, does he extend the CDC protection for risk moratoriums, for rental moratoriums, rental eviction moratoriums? Or does he let all hell break loose?
If he wins.
Or does he let all, no, I said if he loses, is he going to extend the rental eviction moratorium until Congress reconvenes and they can pass stimulus and prevent millions of American families with families? These are not individuals. These are single moms with kids from being evicted.
You know what he's going to do. You know what he's going to do. Because of his personality.
He's going to let the whole ship burn
what
with
do
the
you
captain.
think he's going to do?
He's going to burn it down.
Okay, I don't disagree. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, he's not going to do it. He's going to say, yeah, okay. But then Democrats are going to come and they're going to give it to him the next, in February.
You cannot unwind an eviction. You can't do it.
No, I get what you're saying.
That's why people are armed to the teeth.
Yeah, but there's a different reason why he would be doing that. It's a different reason why. If you make this move and you make this move and I'm getting cornered, if you corner me, I'm sorry. I don't know. If you corner any human being in a situation like this, it doesn't matter who it is.
But why is he getting cornered if he loses the election legitimately?
No, that's a different conversation. What I'm talking about.
That's what she asked, though, no?
And I agree with her.
Okay.
I just told her.
But he would burn the ship down because he lost.
No, he wouldn't burn the ship down. He just would say that the renting we're not covering. I don't think he would burn the ship down.
No.
I don't think he would burn the ship down. But
he's
all
a
I'm saying to you
landlord,
guys, we cannot.
None of this is right. There's no morality about this. 48% of landlords in America are small business owners. Yeah. They're getting hosed. Yeah. They're not covered at all. And in California, it's even worse.
Oh, it's worse. It's worse. But here's the thing, Adam. Look,
I want to ask you a question. Go ahead.
I want to go back to what you said. You said this link. I heard about it one time. Bro, you forget that Trump was never a Republican. You're talking about a guy that just ran with the Republican Party. The man is the one that funded Jesse Jackson's campaign twice as an African-American presidential campaign. This guy's known to support the Democrats. So if he comes into the Republican Party and people don't support him, well, no shit. He was never been a Republican. These are not his friends. These are not people that he ran with. Same thing with reason why Bernie Sanders didn't make it far. He's a socialist. A lot of people, Democrat socialism. A lot of Democrats are like, nah, we're cool, bro. Trump and Sanders fall in the same category. Sanders is a socialist. Trump is not a Republican. Was not a Republican. So to say, well,
we agree there.
Well, he didn't have support from the Republicans. Well, no shit. The guy's only been a Republican for 3 years and 10 months. Of course, he's not going to have the support from the Republicans. I mean, it's not like he's a lifelong Republican.
Right, he's an opportunist.
What are you responding to?
That I agree with too.
About the Lincoln Project?
About the Lincoln Project. About the Lincoln Project.
Well, his support around amongst Republicans is ridiculously high, 90% approval rate.
I get that, bro. But whatever group, there's some groups that simply don't want outsiders. And it's very well could be that this Lincoln group is it. Some people just don't want outsiders, period. And by the way, in the Democrat Party happened with Sanders. There was a lot of Democrats that I talked to, conservative Democrats, are like, bro, we're not supporting Sanders, period.
Well, look what Hillary did in 2016
of course.
with her own Democratic National Committee.
So that's on both sides. Sanders had a lot of Democrats that were not his supporters because he's an outsider. The guy's not a Democrat. He's a socialist. It's that simple. So I don't really put too much weight on these Lincoln guys that turn and say, don't vote for Trump. Well, no shit, he's not part of your party and you just don't want to play ball.
He's a very difficult guy for insiders that have been on the inside for 20 years to let him be the leader. We're like, wait a minute, we've got so control. Guys like that don't do well. When I went into the insurance business, and all of a sudden I started shaking it up, the insiders never liked me for a long time until I won them over. It took me a long time to win these guys. I was like, wait, you're not part of the inside. What are you talking about? You're not one of us. Most of these guys, like my father, I'm legacy and all this other stuff. He's not a legacy, guys. I'm just coming in.
Right.
Here's what I'm going to be doing. Those are the most hated types of
Plus, you
people.
you made him work harder.
Most difficult, hated types of, because you got to wake everybody up. You want to get a new guy? I've been able to kick it. I've been golfing. I've been relaxing. Who the hell are you coming making us work? No, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy.
So you're saying those people would rather vote for the Democrat rather than someone in the Republican Party?
It's not rather. It's because at that point, it's not about Republican, Democrat. It's about the community. It's about the fraternity of politicians. It's about who we are. We all understand each other. And it's not all these other guys. We all understand what things we do behind closed doors, wink, wink type of stuff. No, it's not as black and white as we all think it is. No. There's some gray area here. Anyways, listen, at the end of the day, we don't get to choose. We only got 5 votes here. Okay, and the 5 votes.
And we got 5 people voting.
And we're in Texas, so.
Yeah. Well, he's in California. They're in California. And he's in Florida.
Texas is not a foregone conclusion.
I have to ask my
Texas
question.
is not a foregone. First time since 76.
What's up, Adam?
I can't believe that.
You live in California.
I do.
You pay arguably one of the highest taxes of anyone in the country.
I do.
Why are you still living in California?
As far as why
are you still living in California?
Okay,
you're getting fucked tax-wise, yeah?
Yes, 100%. So I got 2 reasons.
Yeah.
I got 2 reasons. Reason number 1, and by the way, that's not. I'm going to give you my reason number 1.
We got 5 minutes, guys. Yeah. This is the last topic we'll hit.
Okay. Reason number 1, I'm not going to give you. It's not even my strongest point, but all my family is there. But that won't hold me there. Right now, number 2 is for business. We're building right now. We have different offices. There's a conversation I had with Patrick. We wanted to move. Pat says, reinforce your California area first, that's what we're going to do. Is my business coach as well. Hey, we're going to reinforce your California. Once you do X, Y, and Z, just like he did. He says, when I was going to leave California, I left California. I did X, Y, and Z. So he created a game plan for himself. He gave us a blueprint. That's what we're going to do. As soon as that happens, we're out of Cali, bro.
So you're thinking about moving?
No, I'm not thinking about it. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Texas.
Texas
is America. Texas is America.
Texas is America.
Texas
and
is America.
we want it to be, we could be our own country.
As a matter of fact,
that's the ultimate insurance policy.
When Obama became president,
we have natural resources, huge ports, border with Mexico.
Yes.
We're the largest exporting state in the nation. Thank you, California.
As a matter of fact, when Obama ran for president, he won. There was 25,000 petitions signed so Texas can become its independent state.
How is this state up for grabs right now? I don't get it. How is
a lot of people moved here from other states.
You're just not going to get it.
Well,
He's
way on the
making
right.
a point on that.
California moves here.
Some of it is Austin's getting very powerful, and Austin's not Texas.
Right.
Austin's not at all Texas, and there's a big part of Houston that's not Texas.
And sadly enough, because of how the coronavirus has been handled, it has hit mothers, women in the workforce, and minorities the hardest. So in that sense...
Well, and then coupled with the fact that the kids can't go to school and they have to deal with those hardships.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why mothers have disproportionately had to drop out of the workforce.
And by the way, a lot of older people who were 100% supporting Trump in 2016, and up until about 6 months ago, were all on the Trump train. They're seeing this whole ridiculousness with the mask and don't wear the mask. They're in their 70s, their 80s, their 90s. Believe me, they're reconsidering their vote.
I don't
trust me on that.
They're reinforcing it.
Here we go.
These are older people who do not like the way that Trump is handling Corona.
You should have had a shot today. You should have had a shot at tequila or 2 today.
By the way, let me tell you something. And I'm going to end with this.
Should he have said that it was a blessing to get?
I'm sorry, Pat.
Well, you're paying high taxes
Hold on,
in California.
I'm going to end with this right here real quick.
Yeah.
In the middle of this happening, I receive a text message. My mom's godfather, which is my uncle, which is my grandma's brother. Remember I posted a picture with the charros? When my uncle, my cousins are horse riding? Their grandfather, which is like my grandfather, just died from coronavirus. As soon as I get back to Cali, I'm going straight to Modesto.
Well, I'm sorry.
Thank you. But what I'm getting at is this. It's the overall. Like talking to your buddy for the CNC. No, bro. I'm not going to sacrifice. Though my uncle, since I was a baby, he died because of Corona right now. Still doesn't sway me. Because this country needs a leader, not to be, it's okay. No, we need leaders. And I just lost one of my closest people to me right now. No. Patriots need leaders. We don't need to be softened up and put a pillow on our ass when we fall. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's what it comes down to.
What a way to finish the podcast, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Press the thumbs up, subscribe, plus click on the notification button. And when's the next time we're doing a podcast? Danielle, are you going to be with us day after election?
Day after election.
Day after election, Danielle's going to come back. Are we doing the night of election?
We're doing election night, no?
Election night, but we're going to go to 2-3 o'clock. That's going to be like a 6-hour type of deal that we're doing.
I will definitely be having shots of tequila.
That's okay.
No, thank you.
You're going to need shots.
I think we're doing the podcast on Tuesday. That's what Mario told me. So I think that's the next one.
We are doing it this Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes, we are doing it this Tuesday. So we will put it up. You'll see it. But having said that, gang, had a really good time with everybody here. Good stuff.
Thanks,
we can
Pat.
still have fun and leave. Have a good night, everybody.
Vote,
Good night,
everybody,
good night, good night.
vote.
We're doing it tomorrow ourselves. Awesome.
Ricky, you had to steal the show at the end.